Jurassic Park, 1993, is one of the most influential science fiction adventure films ever created. Directed by the legendary filmmaker Steven Spielberg, the movie forever changed how audiences experienced dinosaurs, visual effects, and blockbuster filmmaking. Based on Michael Crichton's best-selling 1990 novel of the same name, the film combines thrilling action, scientific imagination, philosophical questions, and emotional storytelling into a cinematic experience that remains powerful decades after its release. Rather than simply telling a story about dinosaurs, Jurassic Park explores humanity's desire to control nature through science. It asks an important question that continues to be relevant today. Just because humans possess the ability to create something extraordinary, does that automatically mean they should? This central idea transforms the film from a simple monster adventure into a thoughtful exploration of scientific ethics, human ambition, and the unpredictable consequences of technological advancement. The story takes place on the fictional island of Isla Nublar, located off the coast of Costa Rica. Here, billionaire entrepreneur John Hammond has fulfilled what many believed to be impossible. Through advanced genetic engineering, his team of scientists has brought dinosaurs back from extinction after millions of years. Hammond dreams of opening the world's greatest theme park, where visitors can safely observe living dinosaurs roaming natural habitats. To convince investors that the park is ready, Hammond invites several experts to inspect the island. These include paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant, paleobotanist Dr. Ellie Sattler, mathematician Dr. Ian Malcolm, lawyer Donald Gennaro, and his own grandchildren, Tim and Lex Murphy. Initially amazed by the scientific miracle before them, the visitors soon discover that recreating extinct creatures is far more dangerous than anyone anticipated. The situation quickly becomes catastrophic after industrial sabotage disables the park's sophisticated security systems. Electric fences fail, dinosaur enclosures open, communication systems collapse, and dangerous predators begin hunting humans across the island. What was intended to be the greatest entertainment attraction in history transforms into a desperate fight for survival as every visitor struggles to escape the island alive. One of the reasons Jurassic Park remains timeless is that it successfully balances several genres at once. It is a science fiction film because it imagines advanced genetic technology capable of reviving extinct animals. It is an adventure film because characters must travel through dangerous wilderness while overcoming numerous obstacles. It is also a suspense thriller, using carefully constructed tension to make audiences fear what might appear around every corner. At moments, it even becomes a survival drama as ordinary people attempt to stay alive against overwhelming odds. Steven Spielberg's direction plays a major role in the film's lasting success. Rather than immediately showing every dinosaur, Spielberg carefully builds anticipation. He understands that suspense often creates greater excitement than constant action. The audience hears mysterious sounds, witnesses shaking objects, observes frightened animal behavior, and sees characters reacting with fear long before the dinosaurs themselves fully appear. This gradual revelation makes every encounter feel larger than life. The emotional reactions of the characters help audiences believe the impossible. When Dr. Alan Grant first sees a living Brachiosaurus, he is literally speechless. His face reflects complete disbelief, awe, and wonder. Instead of relying on dialogue to explain the significance of the moment, Spielberg allows audiences to experience the discovery alongside the characters. This emotional authenticity transforms computer-generated creatures into believable living animals. The film also succeeds because each major character represents a different perspective on science and progress. John Hammond symbolizes optimism and visionary ambition. He genuinely believes he has created something that will inspire humanity for generations. His intentions are not malicious, he hopes to educate people and share the wonders of prehistoric life with the world. Dr. Alan Grant initially prefers studying fossils because they are predictable and safe. Living dinosaurs challenge everything he knows as a scientist. Throughout the story, Grant evolves not only as a survivor but also as a person. His relationship with Hammond's grandchildren reveals a softer, more protective side that contrasts with his initial discomfort around children. Dr. Ellie Sattler represents intelligence, courage, and practical thinking. Rather than becoming overwhelmed by danger, she consistently analyzes situations calmly and acts decisively. Her scientific knowledge often proves essential in understanding the island's failures and helping others survive. Dr. Ian Malcolm provides the philosophical heart of the film. As a mathematician specializing in chaos theory, Malcolm repeatedly warns that complex systems cannot be completely controlled. He argues that nature behaves unpredictably and that attempts to dominate it inevitably produce unexpected consequences. His famous observation that scientists became so focused on whether they could achieve something that they never stopped to ask whether they should serves as one of the film's central messages. John Hammond's vision initially appears flawless. Every dinosaur enclosure includes sophisticated electric fences. Automated systems monitor animal health and movement. Computer-controlled security protects both visitors and staff. However, the film gradually reveals that overconfidence has blinded Hammond to numerous vulnerabilities hidden beneath the park's impressive appearance. The process used to recreate dinosaurs represents one of the film's most fascinating scientific concepts. Geneticists recover dinosaur DNA preserved inside mosquitoes trapped in ancient amber. Because the DNA is incomplete after millions of years, scientists fill missing genetic sequences using modern frog DNA. This fictional explanation gives audiences a believable scientific foundation while maintaining the sense of wonder necessary for the story. Although modern science has shown that reviving dinosaurs this way would be extraordinarily difficult and likely impossible with current technology, the concept captured imaginations around the world. Jurassic Park introduced millions of viewers to genetics, cloning, DNA research, and evolutionary biology, encouraging widespread public interest in scientific topics that previously seemed inaccessible. Industrial sabotage serves as the catalyst for the disaster. Computer programmer Dennis Nedry secretly agrees to steal dinosaur embryos for a rival corporation in exchange for a large financial reward. His betrayal demonstrates how even the most sophisticated technological systems remain vulnerable to human greed and poor decision-making. By disabling the park's security network to facilitate his theft, Nedry unknowingly unleashes chaos across the island. Once power systems fail, the illusion of complete control disappears almost instantly. Electric fences lose power. Automated doors cease functioning. Communication equipment shuts down. Vehicles become stranded. The dinosaurs, no longer confined by human technology, begin behaving according to their natural instincts rather than human expectations. The Tyrannosaurus Rex attack remains one of cinema's greatest suspense sequences. Spielberg carefully constructs tension through subtle visual clues before revealing the predator itself. The famous image of ripples forming in a cup of water announces the approaching dinosaur long before audiences see it. Every sound, camera movement, and moment of silence contributes to overwhelming anticipation. When the massive predator finally emerges from darkness, the payoff feels both terrifying and unforgettable. Rather than portraying dinosaurs as monsters motivated by evil, the film consistently depicts them as animals following instinct. The Tyrannosaurus hunts because it is a predator. The velociraptors cooperate because they are intelligent pack hunters. Herbivores defend themselves because they perceive threats. This approach makes the dinosaurs feel like authentic wildlife rather than supernatural creatures. The velociraptors represent perhaps the greatest danger in the story. Small compared to the Tyrannosaurus but vastly more intelligent, they demonstrate strategic thinking, communication, patience, and problem-solving abilities. Their coordinated hunting methods make them especially terrifying because they appear capable of learning from experience and adapting their tactics. The relationship between Alan Grant and Hammond's grandchildren provides the film with emotional depth beyond its action sequences. At the beginning, Grant appears uncomfortable around children and avoids responsibility whenever possible. As danger increases, however, he naturally assumes the role of protector. Through shared hardship, trust develops between Grant, Tim, and Lex, creating some of the story's most heartfelt moments. John Williams' musical score contributes enormously to the emotional power of Jurassic Park. The main theme captures feelings of wonder, discovery, and human curiosity. Instead of emphasizing only danger, Williams reminds audiences that seeing living dinosaurs would be one of humanity's greatest scientific achievements. During action scenes, the music shifts dramatically, intensifying suspense without overwhelming the storytelling. Equally revolutionary was the film's sound design. Every dinosaur possesses unique vocalizations created by blending sounds from numerous real animals. Roars, growls, breathing, footsteps, and environmental noises combine to create believable prehistoric creatures. The heavy footsteps of the Tyrannosaurus, the screeches of velociraptors, and the calls of herbivores all contribute to making audiences believe these extinct animals truly exist. The visual effects represented a historic breakthrough for cinema. Before Jurassic Park, filmmakers generally relied on stop-motion animation or performers wearing elaborate costumes to portray giant creatures. Spielberg combined cutting-edge computer-generated imagery with full-scale animatronic dinosaurs built by Stan Winston's talented team. The result was unprecedented realism that convinced audiences they were watching living animals rather than special effects. Large animatronic models allowed actors to physically interact with dinosaur heads, necks, claws, and bodies during close-up scenes. Computer-generated imagery handled wide shots and complex movements impossible to achieve mechanically. Because these techniques complemented one another, viewers rarely questioned what they were seeing. This seamless integration established a new industry standard that influenced visual effects for decades. Industrial light and magic achieved something many experts initially believed impossible. Early computer graphics often appeared artificial or cartoonish, but Jurassic Park's dinosaurs displayed convincing skin textures, realistic muscle movement, natural lighting, and believable weight. Every movement reflected careful study of living animals, allowing extinct species to appear biologically plausible. Filming itself required significant logistical planning. Production occurred across California and Hawaii, where lush tropical landscapes effectively represented Isla Nublar. Hawaiian rainforests, cliffs, rivers, and valleys provided breathtaking natural scenery that enhanced the illusion of an isolated prehistoric ecosystem. Weather occasionally complicated production, but it also contributed atmospheric conditions that strengthened many dramatic sequences. During post-production, Spielberg faced the extraordinary challenge of completing Jurassic Park while simultaneously directing Schindler's List in Europe. Through constant communication with his visual effects teams, editors, composers, and sound designers, he supervised every stage of the film's completion despite working on another major project. This remarkable achievement demonstrated both meticulous planning and exceptional leadership. Marketing for Jurassic Park became one of the largest promotional campaigns ever organized for a film at that time. More than 100 companies participated in licensing agreements involving toys, clothing, books, video games, food promotions, educational materials, and collectibles. Dinosaurs suddenly appeared everywhere in popular culture, creating anticipation months before audiences entered theaters. Upon its theatrical release in June 1993, Jurassic Park became an immediate global sensation. Long lines formed outside theaters as audiences eagerly sought to witness the revolutionary visual effects. Positive word of mouth spread rapidly because viewers recognized they were experiencing something never before seen in cinema. Families, children, scientists, critics, and casual moviegoers all embraced the film for different reasons. Commercially, the film achieved extraordinary success. It earned over $914 million worldwide during its original theatrical release, surpassing Steven Spielberg's earlier blockbuster E.T. the Extraterrestrial to become the highest-grossing film ever made at that time. This remarkable accomplishment demonstrated the universal appeal of combining groundbreaking technology with compelling storytelling. Critics praised nearly every aspect of the production. Steven Spielberg received widespread admiration for balancing spectacle with character development. John Williams' score earned recognition for enhancing both wonder and suspense. The sound design impressed industry professionals for its innovation and realism. The visual effects revolutionized audience expectations regarding what cinema could achieve. The film's action sequences became instant classics because they emphasized suspense, pacing, and emotional investment rather than non-stop destruction. The Academy Awards recognized Jurassic Park primarily for its technical excellence. The film won Oscars for Best Visual Effects, Best Sound, and Best Sound Effects Editing, acknowledging the groundbreaking achievements that transformed filmmaking. These awards reflected not only technical mastery but also the successful integration of technology into meaningful storytelling. One of Jurassic Park's greatest accomplishments is its ability to appeal to viewers of all ages. Children marvel at the dinosaurs, adults appreciate the philosophical themes, scientists enjoy discussions of genetics and evolution, while action fans thrill at the suspenseful survival sequences. This broad appeal has allowed the film to remain popular across multiple generations. The themes explored by Jurassic Park continue to grow increasingly relevant in the modern world. Advances in genetic engineering, cloning, artificial intelligence, biotechnology, and synthetic biology raise ethical questions similar to those presented in the film. Society continues debating how emerging technologies should be regulated, what responsibilities scientists bear, and whether some discoveries should proceed regardless of technical feasibility. John Hammond himself undergoes significant emotional transformation. At first, he confidently believes that careful planning and advanced technology can eliminate every risk. By the story's conclusion, after witnessing death, destruction, and suffering, he recognizes that his dream underestimated the complexity of nature. His willingness to abandon the park demonstrates humility earned through painful experience. The film also emphasizes that nature cannot be completely controlled. Every attempt to impose perfect order eventually encounters unpredictability. Systems fail, animals adapt, weather changes, people make mistakes, and unforeseen events disrupt carefully designed plans. This idea extends beyond dinosaurs, serving as a broader reflection on humanity's relationship with the natural world. Jurassic Park's influence extends far beyond cinema. It inspired countless filmmakers to pursue more ambitious visual effects, encouraged scientific curiosity among younger audiences, and transformed dinosaurs into cultural icons for an entire generation. Museums reported increased public interest in paleontology, educational books about dinosaurs became more popular, and children around the world developed fascination with prehistoric life. The success of the film also launched one of Hollywood's most enduring franchises. Sequels expanded the fictional universe while introducing new characters, locations, and ethical dilemmas surrounding humanity's continued interaction with genetically recreated dinosaurs. Beyond films, the franchise grew to include television series, novels, comic books, video games, toys, clothing, theme park attractions, and numerous other forms of entertainment. Its reputation continued to strengthen over the years. In 2013, a 20th anniversary theatrical re-release introduced Jurassic Park to new audiences using modern presentation technology. The film surpassed $1 billion in cumulative worldwide ticket sales, becoming one of the oldest movies ever to achieve that remarkable milestone. This accomplishment demonstrated that its appeal had not diminished despite enormous technological advances in filmmaking. Perhaps the greatest testament to Jurassic Park's importance came when it was selected for preservation in the United States National Film Registry. This honor recognizes films considered culturally, historically, or aesthetically significant. The selection acknowledged not only the movie's commercial success but also its profound influence on cinematic history, technological innovation, and popular culture. Even today, more than 3 decades after its original release, Jurassic Park continues to inspire admiration. Its storytelling remains emotionally engaging, its suspense sequences remain expertly crafted, and its visual effects still hold up remarkably well. Many modern blockbusters feature far more computer-generated imagery, yet few achieve the same balance between spectacle, character, emotion, and thoughtful themes. Ultimately, Jurassic Park is much more than a film about resurrected dinosaurs. It is a story about curiosity, ambition, responsibility, survival, and humanity's complicated relationship with scientific progress. Through unforgettable characters, breathtaking visual achievements, philosophical depth, and masterful direction, Steven Spielberg created a timeless masterpiece that forever changed the possibilities of cinema. Its influence continues to shape filmmaking, inspire scientific imagination, and entertain audiences around the world, ensuring that Jurassic Park remains one of the greatest adventure films ever produced. Jurassic Park, 1993, begins with an event that immediately establishes the danger hidden behind one of the world's greatest scientific achievements. On the isolated tropical island of Isla Nublar, located off the coast of Costa Rica, workers are preparing to transport a velociraptor into its secure holding pen. The operation appears routine, with armed guards and experienced handlers carefully following safety procedures. The dinosaur is kept inside a reinforced steel crate while workers coordinate every movement. However, within moments, everything goes terribly wrong. The velociraptor displays extraordinary intelligence and aggression, attacking the handlers through the opening of the enclosure. Despite everyone's efforts to control the situation, one worker is pulled inside and brutally killed while the others desperately try to save him. This horrifying incident reveals that the animals living inside Jurassic Park are not harmless attractions. They are powerful wild predators that cannot be completely controlled, no matter how advanced the technology surrounding them may seem. News of the accident reaches the investors funding the enormous project. Understandably alarmed, they begin questioning whether the park is truly safe enough to open to the public. Since billions of dollars have already been invested, they refuse to continue supporting the project unless independent experts personally inspect the island and certify that every attraction meets acceptable safety standards. The park's creator, billionaire entrepreneur John Hammond, refuses to believe that his lifelong dream should collapse because of one tragic accident. Hammond genuinely believes that Jurassic Park represents one of humanity's greatest accomplishments. After years of research and unimaginable expense, his scientists have achieved what was once considered impossible. They have successfully brought dinosaurs back from extinction. Convinced that the park is fundamentally safe, Hammond invites several respected experts to visit Isla Nublar and evaluate his creation. Representing the investors is lawyer Donald Gennaro, whose responsibility is protecting their financial interests. Hammond also invites renowned paleontologist Dr. Alan Grant, whose professional life has been devoted to studying dinosaur fossils. Alongside Grant comes paleobotanist Dr. Ellie Sattler, an expert in prehistoric plant life who has worked closely with him for years. The investors additionally request that mathematician and chaos theory specialist Dr. Ian Malcolm accompany the inspection team. Malcolm has earned a reputation for studying unpredictable systems and believes that complicated organizations often fail in unexpected ways. His perspective differs greatly from Hammond's optimism, setting the stage for important philosophical debates throughout the story. The visitors travel by helicopter across the ocean toward Isla Nublar. During the flight, they admire the island's lush mountains, dense tropical forests, and dramatic coastline. None of them fully understands what they are about to witness. Although Hammond has described his extraordinary achievement, most believe the claims are exaggerated or impossible. After all, dinosaurs have been extinct for over 65 million years. Even experienced scientists struggle to imagine living prehistoric creatures walking the Earth again. Once they arrive, Hammond welcomes everyone with great enthusiasm. His excitement is genuine because he believes he has fulfilled mankind's oldest dream of bringing history back to life. Soon afterward, the visitors begin driving through the island toward the main facilities. It is during this journey that one of cinema's most unforgettable moments occurs. As Alan Grant notices something enormous moving in the distance, he becomes completely speechless. Unable to believe his own eyes, he removes his sunglasses and stares into the landscape with overwhelming amazement. Standing peacefully among the trees is a gigantic brachiosaurus. The enormous herbivore stretches its impossibly long neck toward the treetops while calmly feeding on leaves. Nearby, several Parasaurolophus roam together across open fields, behaving naturally as though they had never disappeared from Earth. For scientists who have spent their lives studying only fossilized bones buried beneath rock, this discovery is beyond comprehension. Grant and Ellie are overwhelmed with emotion. Everything they believed existed only in ancient history now stands alive before them. Hammond watches proudly, satisfied that his guests finally understand the true magnitude of his accomplishment. The visitors' reactions mirror those of the audience, emphasizing wonder rather than fear during the film's early stages. After recovering from their initial shock, the group arrives at Jurassic Park's impressive visitor center. Here, Hammond introduces them to the science responsible for resurrecting extinct species. Through an educational presentation, they learn that prehistoric mosquitoes became trapped inside tree resin millions of years ago. Over time, this resin hardened into amber, perfectly preserving insects that had fed on dinosaur blood shortly before becoming trapped. Inside those ancient mosquitoes remained tiny traces of dinosaur DNA. Scientists carefully extracted the genetic material from the preserved blood. However, because millions of years had damaged much of the DNA, many genetic sequences were incomplete. To solve this problem, Hammond's research team filled the missing gaps using DNA borrowed from living animals, particularly frogs and several other compatible species. Through advanced genetic engineering, the scientists successfully reconstructed complete dinosaur genomes and used them to clone living embryos. The visitors are fascinated by this remarkable achievement. They witness one of the laboratories where dinosaur eggs are incubated under carefully controlled conditions. Moments later, they watch as a baby velociraptor hatches from its shell. Although the newborn appears small and seemingly harmless, the scientists explain that it belongs to one of the most intelligent and dangerous predator species ever to exist. The cloning process raises an obvious concern. If dinosaurs can reproduce naturally, their population could quickly become uncontrollable. Hammond confidently explains that his scientists solved this problem by genetically engineering every dinosaur to be female. The visitors are fascinated by this remarkable achievement. They witness one of the laboratories where dinosaur eggs are incubated under carefully controlled conditions. Moments later, they watch as a baby velociraptor hatches from its shell. Although the newborn appears small and seemingly harmless, the scientists explain that it belongs to one of the most intelligent and dangerous predator species ever to exist. The cloning process raises an obvious concern. If dinosaurs can reproduce naturally, their population could quickly become uncontrollable. Hammond confidently explains that his scientists solved this problem by genetically engineering every dinosaur to be female. Through chromosome manipulation, reproduction should be biologically impossible. Without males, the animals cannot breed, ensuring that population growth remains completely under human control. Despite Hammond's confidence, Ian Malcolm remains deeply skeptical. During lunch, the visitors discuss the ethical consequences of creating extinct species simply for entertainment. Malcolm argues that humanity is becoming dangerously arrogant. According to him, the scientists responsible for Jurassic Park became so focused on whether they possess the ability to accomplish something extraordinary that they never seriously questioned whether they should. Malcolm believes nature cannot be completely controlled because complex systems always produce unpredictable outcomes. He warns Hammond that attempting to dominate millions of years of evolution through modern technology represents extraordinary overconfidence. Grant and Ellie share many of Malcolm's concerns. Although amazed by the scientific achievement, they wonder whether dinosaurs and modern humans can safely coexist inside an artificial environment. Hammond, however, refuses to abandon his dream. He genuinely believes the park will educate millions of visitors while inspiring appreciation for Earth's ancient history. His intentions are sincere, even if his confidence ultimately proves misplaced. Later that day, Hammond's grandchildren, Lex and Tim Murphy, arrive to experience the park alongside the experts. Lex is intelligent and enthusiastic about computers, while Tim possesses an enormous fascination with dinosaurs. Their excitement reflects what Hammond hopes every future visitor will experience once Jurassic Park officially opens. The inspection tour begins inside two automated electric vehicles that travel along predetermined tracks throughout the island. Unlike traditional cars, these vehicles operate without human drivers, relying entirely upon computer systems controlling every movement. Hammond proudly watches the tour from the park's highly advanced control room, where engineers monitor security cameras, electrical systems, dinosaur locations, and environmental conditions through sophisticated computer networks. Unfortunately, the tour quickly becomes disappointing. Most dinosaurs fail to appear because they wander freely throughout enormous habitats rather than performing for visitors. Hammond jokingly explains that living animals rarely cooperate with scheduled entertainment. Eventually, the group encounters a sick triceratops lying motionless beside the road. Ellie Sattler immediately volunteers to examine the enormous herbivore while the others continue their journey. She suspects that something within the dinosaur's environment may be causing repeated illness, demonstrating that many aspects of caring for extinct animals remain poorly understood. Meanwhile, dark storm clouds gather over Isla Nublar. Meteorologists warn that a powerful tropical storm is approaching the island. To avoid dangerous weather, park employees prepare to leave for the mainland aboard a supply boat. Most workers depart, leaving only a skeleton maintenance crew behind. Hammond believes the automated systems can easily manage operations until the storm passes. Hidden beneath the surface of these events, however, another disaster is already unfolding. Dennis Nedry, Jurassic Park's chief computer programmer, secretly harbors deep resentment toward Hammond. Feeling underpaid and overworked despite his crucial role in developing the park's computer systems, Nedry agrees to betray his employer. He has accepted a substantial bribe from Lewis Dodgson, an agent representing Hammond's corporate competitors. Dodgson wants stolen dinosaur embryos that rival companies can use to create competing attractions. To accomplish the theft, Nedry designs an elaborate computer program that temporarily disables many of the park's security systems without immediately revealing his actions. Late that evening, while heavy rain begins falling across the island, Nedry activates his plan. Computer security suddenly shuts down. Electrical power fails throughout large portions of Jurassic Park. Communication networks collapse. Most importantly, electric fences surrounding the dinosaur enclosures lose power. Because the automated tour vehicles depend entirely upon electricity, they stop moving directly beside the Tyrannosaurus Rex enclosure. For several tense moments, nothing happens. Then a series of vibrations causes ripples to appear inside cups of water resting in the motionless vehicles. The passengers hear enormous footsteps approaching through the darkness. Suddenly, the massive Tyrannosaurus crashes through the powerless electric fence. The gigantic predator emerges into the roadway with incredible force. Curious about the unfamiliar vehicles, it investigates before launching a devastating attack. Donald Gennaro panics and abandons the safety of his vehicle, hiding inside a nearby restroom. Unfortunately, the Tyrannosaurus quickly destroys the structure and devours him. Ian Malcolm is seriously injured while attempting to distract the predator from Hammond's terrified grandchildren. Alan Grant desperately rescues Lex and Tim as the dinosaur overturns one of the vehicles and sends another tumbling over a cliff. The once carefully controlled theme park has become a deadly wilderness within only a few minutes. Meanwhile, Dennis Nedry attempts to escape with the stolen embryos concealed inside a disguised container. Torrential rain and poor visibility cause him to become hopelessly lost. After crashing his jeep, Nedry encounters a small dinosaur known as Dilophosaurus. Initially believing the creature to be harmless because of its relatively small size, Nedry underestimates the animal completely. Without warning, the Dilophosaurus expands a colorful neck frill and spits venom directly into his eyes, temporarily blinding him. Disoriented and unable to defend himself, Nedry is attacked and killed. His betrayal ends in failure, and the stolen embryos are lost within the jungle. Back at the park, Ellie Sattler joins experienced game warden Robert Muldoon in searching for survivors. They eventually discover the wounded Ian Malcolm lying unconscious before the Tyrannosaurus suddenly returns. Forced to flee once again, they barely escape the enormous predator. Elsewhere, Alan Grant successfully guides Lex and Tim away from immediate danger. Exhausted, the three survivors spend the night sleeping among the branches of an enormous tree. During the quiet evening, they encounter a peaceful herd of Brachiosaurus feeding nearby. This gentle moment provides emotional relief after the terrifying attack and strengthens the growing bond between Grant and the children. The following morning, Grant discovers broken dinosaur eggs scattered across the forest floor. The sight immediately troubles him because every cloned dinosaur was supposedly female. If eggs exist outside controlled laboratory conditions, then dinosaurs have somehow begun reproducing naturally. Grant carefully studies the evidence before reaching a disturbing conclusion. Because frog DNA was used to complete missing portions of the dinosaur's genetic code, some species inherited biological characteristics possessed by certain amphibians. Some modern frogs can naturally change sex when living in single-sex populations. The dinosaurs have unknowingly developed the same ability, making natural breeding possible despite Hammond's carefully designed safeguards. This discovery confirms Malcolm's earlier warnings. Nature has found a way around human attempts to control it. Meanwhile, inside the visitor center, Hammond and Chief Engineer Ray Arnold desperately attempt to restore the park's systems. Unfortunately, Nedry's sabotage has locked nearly every computer function. Arnold concludes that the only solution is completely shutting down the electrical grid before restarting every system from scratch. Although risky, they have little choice. Power throughout the island is turned off entirely. Arnold travels alone toward a maintenance shed where he must manually complete the reboot process while Hammond, Malcolm, and the remaining survivors wait anxiously inside an emergency bunker. Time passes, but Arnold never returns. Concerned, Ellie Sattler and Robert Muldoon venture into the jungle searching for him. During their journey, they make another horrifying discovery. The complete power shutdown has also disabled security surrounding the Velociraptor enclosure. The intelligent predators have escaped into the surrounding forest. Muldoon understands better than anyone how dangerous these animals are. He knows the raptors hunt cooperatively, communicate silently, and often distract prey before attacking from unexpected directions. As he cautiously searches the jungle, one raptor intentionally reveals itself, drawing his attention forward. Moments later, another hidden raptor attacks from the side, killing the experienced hunter before he can defend himself. Ellie successfully reaches the maintenance building and restores electrical power. While searching for Arnold, she discovers only his severed arm, confirming that he has already been killed by the escaped raptors. Barely escaping another attack herself, Ellie races back toward the visitor center. At the same time, Grant, Lex, and Tim finally arrive at the park headquarters after surviving countless dangers. Believing Ellie may still be trapped outside, Grant leaves the children temporarily inside the visitor center while he searches for her. The decision almost proves disastrous. Two velociraptors silently enter the building and begin hunting Lex and Tim. The children realize they are completely alone with two of the most intelligent predators ever created. One of the film's most suspenseful sequences unfolds inside the industrial kitchen. Using stainless steel counters, refrigerators, and narrow passageways as hiding places, Lex and Tim quietly evade the raptors. Every movement becomes a matter of life and death because even the slightest noise could reveal their location. The predators demonstrate remarkable intelligence, opening doors and searching systematically for their prey. Eventually, the children escape the kitchen and reunite with Grant and Ellie. Together they race toward the control room, hoping to restore communication with the outside world before the dinosaurs find them again. Inside the control center, Lex applies her computer skills to reactivate the park's systems. Despite the enormous pressure surrounding her, she successfully restores electrical control, communication networks, and security functions. Hammond immediately contacts emergency personnel on the mainland, requesting a rescue helicopter before the situation deteriorates further. Believing escape is finally within reach, the survivors head toward the main entrance. However, the two surviving velociraptors intercept them inside the visitor center. Cornered with nowhere left to run, Grant, Ellie, Lex, Tim, Hammond, and Malcolm prepare for what appears to be certain death. Just as the raptors prepare to attack, an unexpected force crashes into the room. The Tyrannosaurus Rex bursts through the building, instantly attacking the velociraptors. A spectacular battle erupts between the giant predator and the intelligent hunters. Using its enormous strength, The Tyrannosaurus crushes one raptor in its powerful jaws before throwing the second into a towering dinosaur skeleton, killing it instantly. The surviving humans use the distraction to escape the building while the Tyrannosaurus roars triumphantly among the collapsing exhibits, symbolizing nature's complete domination over humanity's artificial attempts at control. Outside, the rescue helicopter arrives moments later. Hammond, Grant, Ellie, Malcolm, Lex, and Tim board the aircraft and finally leave Isla Nublar behind. The helicopter flies away across the ocean. Everyone reflects silently upon everything they have experienced. Hammond, once absolutely convinced that Jurassic Park represented humanity's greatest achievement, now understands the terrible consequences of his ambition. Looking out the helicopter window, Grant watches birds soaring freely above the sea. Their flight reminds him that modern birds evolved from ancient dinosaurs, suggesting that nature has continued its evolutionary journey without human interference for millions of years. The story concludes not with humanity conquering nature, but with humanity recognizing its limitations. Jurassic Park ultimately delivers a timeless message that scientific knowledge carries immense responsibility. While innovation can accomplish extraordinary things, wisdom lies in understanding that some forces of nature cannot be completely controlled. Hammond's dream of creating a perfect prehistoric paradise collapses because life itself refuses to obey human expectations, proving that nature will always remain more powerful, more adaptable, and more unpredictable than any system mankind can ever build. Jurassic Park, 1993, cast explained in full expanded form. One of the greatest strengths of Jurassic Park, 1993, is its remarkable cast. While the groundbreaking visual effects and realistic dinosaurs often receive the most attention, the film's lasting success would not have been possible without its talented actors. Every major character has a distinct personality, purpose, and perspective that adds depth to the story. Rather than simply reacting to dinosaur attacks, each character represents different beliefs about science, technology, business, ethics, survival, and humanity's relationship with nature. Steven Spielberg carefully assembled a cast capable of making audiences believe the impossible. Their performances convince viewers that living dinosaurs truly exist, allowing the incredible visual effects to feel emotionally authentic. Instead of treating the dinosaurs as movie monsters, the actors react with genuine fear, amazement, curiosity, and respect, making every scene believable. Sam Neill as Dr. Alan Grant. Sam Neill delivers one of the film's strongest performances as Dr. Alan Grant, a world-renowned paleontologist who has spent most of his professional life studying dinosaur fossils. Grant is intelligent, practical, patient, and completely devoted to science. Unlike many fictional scientists, he is not interested in fame or financial success. His greatest passion is uncovering the secrets of prehistoric life through careful research and excavation. At the beginning of the film, Grant is introduced at an active dinosaur dig site. Here, audiences immediately understand his expertise as he explains velociraptor behavior to a young visitor who underestimates how dangerous the predators truly were. Grant describes the raptors as highly intelligent pack hunters capable of coordinated attacks. This early conversation serves as important foreshadowing because everything he says later proves true when the living velociraptors begin hunting humans. Although Grant is an outstanding scientist, he initially feels uncomfortable around children. Throughout the opening scenes, he appears impatient whenever children interrupt his work. His relationship with Ellie Sattler suggests that while she may someday want a family, Grant remains focused almost entirely on his career. This personality trait becomes an important part of his character development. After arriving on Isla Nublar and witnessing living dinosaurs for the first time, Grant experiences one of cinema's most unforgettable moments. His expression communicates complete disbelief, overwhelming wonder, and emotional amazement without requiring lengthy dialogue. Sam Neill portrays this discovery with such authenticity that audiences share Grant's sense of astonishment. As the story progresses and the park descends into chaos, Grant naturally becomes the group's protector. Following the Tyrannosaurus attack, he takes responsibility for Hammond's grandchildren, Lex and Tim. Despite his earlier discomfort around children, he risks his life repeatedly to keep them safe. Throughout countless dangerous situations, Grant displays courage, intelligence, calm leadership, and compassion. By the end of the story, Grant has transformed significantly. His experiences with Lex and Tim awaken a more caring and protective side of his personality. Rather than simply surviving dinosaurs, Grant also grows emotionally, becoming a more complete person. Sam Neill successfully balances scientific intelligence, quiet humor, vulnerability, bravery, and emotional warmth, making Alan Grant one of cinema's most memorable adventure heroes. Laura Dern as Dr. Ellie Sattler. Laura Dern portrays Dr. Ellie Sattler, an accomplished paleobotanist whose knowledge of prehistoric plant life perfectly complements Grant's expertise in dinosaurs. Ellie is highly intelligent, confident, resourceful, and fearless. She refuses to allow danger or traditional expectations to limit her actions. Unlike many adventure films where female characters require constant rescue, Ellie consistently proves herself to be among the story's most capable survivors. She approaches every challenge with calm determination and practical thinking. When the group discovers a sick triceratops, Ellie immediately begins examining the enormous animal rather than simply observing from a distance. Her scientific curiosity demonstrates her commitment to understanding nature rather than exploiting it. She carefully investigates environmental conditions surrounding the dinosaur, hoping to identify the cause of its mysterious illness. As disaster unfolds across Jurassic Park, Ellie repeatedly volunteers for dangerous missions. She joins Robert Muldoon in searching for injured survivors despite knowing predators roam freely across the island. Later, she bravely travels alone into the maintenance facility to restore electrical power after Ray Arnold fails to return. These scenes showcase Ellie's remarkable courage. Even after discovering Arnold's severed arm, she refuses to panic. Instead, she concentrates on completing the mission before escaping the attacking velociraptors. Laura Dern portrays Ellie as emotionally intelligent as well as scientifically gifted. She often serves as the emotional balance within the group, supporting Grant while remaining willing to challenge Hammond whenever necessary. She recognizes that Hammond's dream has become dangerously irresponsible long before he admits his mistakes. Ellie represents the ideal scientist. Someone who values knowledge but also understands the ethical responsibilities accompanying scientific discovery. Throughout the film, she demonstrates that intelligence includes compassion, courage, and sound judgment. Jeff Goldblum delivers one of the most iconic performances in the film as Dr. Ian Malcolm, a mathematician specializing in chaos theory. Malcolm differs dramatically from the other scientists because he studies unpredictable systems rather than ancient life or genetics. From the moment he appears, Malcolm displays charisma, humor, confidence, and intellectual curiosity. His unique speaking style, filled with pauses, observations, and philosophical reflections, immediately distinguishes him from every other character. While Hammond proudly celebrates his scientific achievement, Malcolm remains deeply skeptical. He believes nature cannot be fully controlled because every complex system eventually behaves unpredictably. During the lunch discussion, Malcolm delivers the film's central philosophical argument. He criticizes the scientists responsible for Jurassic Park by explaining that they became so focused on whether they could accomplish something extraordinary that they never stopped to ask whether they should. This observation summarizes the entire film's message. Malcolm repeatedly warns Hammond that genetic engineering carries enormous risks. According to chaos theory, even carefully designed systems eventually experience unexpected consequences because countless variables interact in ways impossible to predict. Everything Malcolm predicts eventually becomes reality. The dinosaurs breed despite being engineered as females. Computer systems fail. Human greed leads to sabotage. Predators escape their enclosures. Nature consistently defeats technological control. Despite his intellectual confidence, Malcolm is not portrayed as arrogant. During the Tyrannosaurus attack, he courageously distracts the enormous predator away from Hammond's grandchildren, suffering severe injuries in the process. His willingness to risk his own life demonstrates that beneath his sarcastic humor lies genuine compassion. Jeff Goldblum's performance became one of the film's defining elements. His combination of intelligence, wit, charm, and philosophical depth transformed Ian Malcolm into one of the franchise's most beloved characters. Richard Attenborough as John Hammond. Richard Attenborough portrays John Hammond, the wealthy founder and chief executive of InGen, the biotechnology company responsible for creating Jurassic Park. Unlike many fictional billionaires, Hammond is not motivated primarily by greed. He genuinely dreams of giving humanity the opportunity to experience dinosaurs alive. His enthusiasm resembles that of an inventor eager to share an incredible discovery with the world. Throughout the early portions of the film, Hammond behaves almost like a proud grandfather showing visitors his life's greatest accomplishment. He sincerely believes Jurassic Park will educate, inspire, and entertain millions of people. However, Hammond's greatest weakness is excessive optimism. He consistently underestimates potential risks while overestimating technology's ability to solve problems. Every time concerns arise, Hammond confidently insists that his systems are safe. Even after witnessing evidence of danger, he struggles to accept that nature cannot be completely controlled. As the disaster worsens, Hammond gradually realizes how many mistakes he has made. Watching innocent people die forces him to confront the consequences of his ambition. By the film's conclusion, Hammond abandons his dream and agrees that Jurassic Park should never open to the public. Richard Attenborough portrays Hammond with warmth, kindness, intelligence, and genuine humanity. Because his intentions are sincere rather than malicious, audiences sympathize with him despite recognizing his poor decisions. Bob Peck as Robert Muldoon. Bob Peck plays Robert Muldoon, Jurassic Park's experienced game warden and chief animal handler. Muldoon possesses extensive knowledge of dangerous wildlife and immediately understands that the velociraptors represent the park's greatest threat. Unlike Hammond, Muldoon respects the animals rather than underestimating them. Throughout the film, Muldoon consistently advocates stronger safety measures. He recognizes the predator's intelligence, teamwork, and hunting instincts long before other characters appreciate their danger. When the park loses power, Muldoon becomes one of the few individuals capable of tracking dinosaurs through the jungle. His calm professionalism, survival skills, and practical experience make him an invaluable member of the rescue effort. Unfortunately, even Muldoon's expertise cannot overcome the velociraptor's extraordinary intelligence. During his final confrontation, one raptor deliberately distracts him while another attacks from the side, demonstrating coordinated hunting behavior exactly as Grant had described earlier. Muldoon's death emphasizes that experience alone cannot guarantee survival when facing predators that continually adapt their strategies. Martin Ferrero as Donald Gennaro. Martin Ferrero portrays Donald Gennaro, the lawyer representing Jurassic Park's financial investors. Unlike the scientists visiting the island, Gennaro focuses primarily on legal liability and financial risk. His responsibility is determining whether the park can safely operate without exposing investors to enormous lawsuits. Initially skeptical of Hammond's ambitious project, Gennaro becomes increasingly impressed after witnessing living dinosaurs. However, once the Tyrannosaurus escapes, his confidence disappears completely. Overwhelmed by fear, Gennaro abandons the children and attempts to save himself by hiding inside a restroom. His panic ultimately proves fatal when the Tyrannosaurus destroys the structure and devours him. Although his role is relatively brief, Gennaro illustrates how ordinary people often react when confronted with overwhelming terror. B.D. Wong as Dr. Henry Wu. B.D. Wong portrays Dr. Henry Wu, Jurassic Park's chief geneticist and one of the brilliant scientists responsible for cloning dinosaurs. Wu represents the remarkable scientific achievement underlying Hammond's vision. His research made resurrection of extinct species possible through advanced genetic engineering. He confidently explains how dinosaur DNA was recovered from mosquitoes preserved inside ancient amber before missing genetic information was replaced using frog DNA. Wu genuinely believes the cloning process is scientifically sound. However, the film subtly suggests that even highly intelligent scientists cannot anticipate every consequence of manipulating nature. Although Wu appears only briefly, his work drives the entire story because every dinosaur existing on Isla Nublar originates from his laboratory. Samuel L. Jackson plays Ray Arnold, Jurassic Park's chief engineer responsible for maintaining the park's sophisticated computer systems. Arnold oversees electrical power, security networks, automated vehicles, communications, and numerous other technological systems essential for the park's operation. Unlike Hammond's optimism, Arnold often expresses realistic concerns regarding the complexity of managing so many interconnected systems. After Nedry sabotages the computers, Arnold works tirelessly attempting to restore control. Eventually, he decides the only solution involves shutting down and restarting every electrical system across the island. Determined to complete the dangerous repair personally, Arnold enters the maintenance building alone. Sadly, he never returns because escaped velociraptors kill him before repairs can be completed. His death demonstrates that technical expertise cannot protect someone from the park's increasingly uncontrollable dangers. Wayne Knight as Dennis Nedry. Wayne Knight delivers an unforgettable performance as Dennis Nedry, Jurassic Park's disgruntled computer programmer. Nedry is highly intelligent but deeply irresponsible. Feeling underappreciated by Hammond, he secretly accepts money from a rival corporation in exchange for stolen dinosaur embryos. His betrayal becomes the direct cause of the park's catastrophic failure. By disabling security systems, Nedry unintentionally releases the Tyrannosaurus and numerous other dangerous dinosaurs. Ironically, his carefully planned theft quickly falls apart. Lost during the tropical storm, he crashes his vehicle before encountering a Dilophosaurus. Mistakenly assuming the small dinosaur poses little danger, Nedry becomes the victim of its venom-spitting attack before being killed. His storyline illustrates how greed, selfishness, and short-term thinking can produce devastating consequences affecting countless innocent people. Joseph Mazzello as Tim Murphy. Joseph Mazzello portrays Tim Murphy, Hammond's enthusiastic grandson. Tim possesses an extraordinary fascination with dinosaurs and eagerly absorbs scientific information throughout the visit. Unlike many children, Tim genuinely appreciates prehistoric animals rather than simply viewing them as exciting attractions. Despite experiencing unimaginable danger, Tim remains remarkably brave. His intelligence, curiosity, and optimism help him survive numerous life-threatening situations. Throughout the adventure, Tim develops a close father-son relationship with Alan Grant. Grant gradually becomes both mentor and protector, while Tim gains confidence through their shared experiences. Ariana Richards as Lex Murphy. Ariana Richards plays Lex Murphy, Hammond's teenage granddaughter. Initially presented as less interested in dinosaurs than her younger brother, Lex instead demonstrates considerable talent with computers. This ability becomes critically important during the film's climax. While velociraptors hunt the survivors inside the visitor center, Lex successfully restores Jurassic Park's computer systems. Her technical skills allow communication with rescue helicopters and ultimately make escape possible. Lex also shows tremendous courage throughout the story. Despite overwhelming fear, she protects her younger brother whenever possible while adapting quickly to dangerous situations. Her intelligence proves just as valuable as physical bravery. Jerry Molan as Dr. Harding. Jerry Molan portrays Dr. Harding, Jurassic Park's veterinarian. Although his screen time is limited, Harding plays an essential role caring for the cloned dinosaurs. He supervises medical treatment, monitors animal health, and assists Ellie Sattler while examining the sick Triceratops. His presence emphasizes that resurrecting extinct species requires not only genetic engineering but also continuous veterinary care. Miguel Sandoval as Juanito Rostaño. Miguel Sandoval appears as Juanito Rostaño, the supervisor overseeing Hammond's amber mining operations in the Dominican Republic. Although briefly seen, his work represents the very beginning of Jurassic Park's scientific process. Without amber containing prehistoric mosquitoes, dinosaur DNA could never have been recovered. His character reminds audiences that the park's success depended upon worldwide scientific exploration and resource collection. Cameron Thor as Lewis Dodgson. Cameron Thor portrays Lewis Dodgson, an employee representing Hammond's corporate rivals. Dodgson secretly hires Dennis Nedry to steal frozen dinosaur embryos, hoping competing companies can duplicate Jurassic Park's revolutionary technology. Although appearing only briefly, Dodgson initiates the conspiracy that ultimately destroys Hammond's dream. His actions demonstrate how corporate competition and financial greed often influence scientific advancement. Whit Hartford as the Curious Boy. Whit Hartford appears as the young boy visiting Grant's excavation site early in the film. After mocking velociraptors as harmless scavengers, he receives an unforgettable lesson from Grant regarding their intelligence and hunting abilities. This brief conversation serves as important foreshadowing for later events while establishing Grant's expertise. Joffrey Brown as the dinosaur handler. Joffrey Brown portrays the unfortunate dinosaur handler killed during the film's opening sequence. Although appearing only briefly, his death immediately establishes the velociraptors as deadly predators and creates the central conflict motivating the investor's inspection. His sacrifice demonstrates that Jurassic Park was already dangerous before the main story truly begins. Richard Kiley as the tour guide voice. Richard Kiley provides the calm, welcoming narration heard throughout Jurassic Park's automated tour vehicles. His friendly voice creates the atmosphere of a safe educational attraction, contrasting sharply with the deadly reality unfolding outside. The cheerful announcements become increasingly ironic as the park descends into chaos. Greg Burson as Mr. DNA. Greg Burson voices Mr. DNA, the animated educational character explaining dinosaur cloning inside the visitor center. Using humor and simplified language, Mr. DNA introduces audiences to the fictional science behind Jurassic Park. The entertaining presentation makes complex genetic concepts understandable while reinforcing the park's family-friendly image. Ironically, this cheerful explanation contrasts with the terrifying consequences of the technology it celebrates. Overall cast performance. The cast of Jurassic Park succeeds because every actor treats the extraordinary situation as completely real. Their believable reactions transform groundbreaking visual effects into emotionally convincing experiences. Sam Neill provides steady leadership, Laura Dern delivers intelligence and courage, Jeff Goldblum supplies philosophical depth and memorable humor, Richard Attenborough portrays visionary optimism mixed with tragic misjudgment, while the supporting cast fills the world with believable scientists, engineers, children, hunters, and employees. Together, these performances create characters that audiences continue to remember decades after the film's release. Rather than existing merely to witness dinosaur attacks, each character contributes unique ideas, emotions, and perspectives that strengthen the story's exploration of science, responsibility, human ambition, and the unpredictable power of nature. Their outstanding performances remain one of the primary reasons why Jurassic Park, 1993, continues to be celebrated as one of the greatest science fiction adventure films ever made. The creation of Jurassic Park, 1993, is one of the most fascinating stories in Hollywood history. Long before audiences witnessed giant dinosaurs walking across movie screens, the project spent years evolving through ideas, planning, script revisions, artistic experimentation, and technological innovation. What eventually became one of the greatest adventure films ever made began as a simple concept developed by author Michael Crichton, who imagined a world where extinct dinosaurs could be brought back to life through genetic engineering. The journey from idea to finished film was neither quick nor easy. It involved visionary filmmakers, fierce competition among Hollywood studios, groundbreaking artistic decisions, and years of preparation before a single frame of the movie was filmed. Every stage of development required careful planning because no film of this scale had ever been attempted before. Jurassic Park was not simply another blockbuster, it represented a completely new way of making movies. Michael Crichton's original concept. Before Jurassic Park became a best-selling novel, Michael Crichton originally imagined the story as a screenplay during the 1980s. Crichton was already well known for writing intelligent science fiction that combined real scientific theories with exciting adventures. His stories often explored the unintended consequences of technological progress, asking what might happen if humanity pushed scientific discoveries beyond safe limits. While developing Jurassic Park, Crichton became fascinated by advances in genetics and biotechnology. During the late 20th century, scientists were making remarkable discoveries about DNA, cloning, and genetic engineering. Although bringing dinosaurs back from extinction remained impossible, the rapid progress of biological science inspired Crichton to imagine a future where such an achievement might become believable. Instead of portraying dinosaurs as magical creatures or fantasy monsters, Crichton wanted readers to believe their return could someday happen through scientific research. This realistic foundation became one of the story's greatest strengths. The dinosaurs were frightening not because they were supernatural but because they were presented as living animals created through plausible scientific methods. As Crichton continued developing the project, he realized the concept worked even better as a novel than as a screenplay. Writing a novel allowed him to explain complex scientific ideas in greater detail while exploring philosophical questions surrounding genetic engineering, corporate responsibility, and humanity's relationship with nature. Learning from earlier Hollywood experiences. Before Jurassic Park, Crichton had experienced the competitive nature of Hollywood when another of his novels, Congo, attracted enormous interest from film studios. Multiple companies competed aggressively for the adaptation rights, creating a lengthy bidding war that delayed production for years. Although such bidding wars often resulted in higher payments for authors, Crichton valued something different. He wanted Jurassic Park to become a movie quickly rather than remaining trapped in years of negotiations. Instead of encouraging endless competition, Crichton offered the film rights for a fixed price of $1.5 million. His decision reflected an unusual priority. Rather than maximizing financial profit, he focused on finding a filmmaker capable of successfully bringing his vision to the screen. This practical approach allowed serious discussions to begin immediately without prolonged negotiations. Steven Spielberg discovers Jurassic Park. During 1990, Steven Spielberg learned about Jurassic Park while working with Michael Crichton on another project that would eventually become the successful television series ER. At the time, Spielberg was already considered one of Hollywood's greatest directors, having created memorable films combining excitement, emotion, and technical innovation. Spielberg's interest in Jurassic Park developed almost instantly. Since childhood, he had been fascinated by dinosaurs. Like millions of children around the world, he imagined what it would feel like to stand beside these enormous prehistoric animals. That childhood curiosity never disappeared. Even after becoming one of cinema's most accomplished directors, Spielberg remained captivated by the mystery surrounding dinosaurs. After reading an early version of Crichton's novel, Spielberg immediately committed himself to directing the adaptation. Several qualities impressed him. First, he loved the sense of adventure running throughout the story. Jurassic Park combined scientific discovery with suspense, exploration, and survival, creating exactly the type of exciting cinematic experience Spielberg enjoyed making. Second, he appreciated the scientific explanation behind dinosaur resurrection. Rather than relying on fantasy or magic, the novel presented genetics and DNA research as believable foundations for bringing extinct creatures back to life. This realistic approach convinced Spielberg that audiences would emotionally invest in the impossible. A fierce competition among Hollywood studios. Although Crichton preferred avoiding a bidding war, the extraordinary potential of Jurassic Park quickly attracted enormous attention throughout Hollywood. Major film studios immediately recognized that the project could become one of the biggest movies ever made. Several studios competed aggressively for the adaptation rights. Warner Brothers considered Tim Burton as a possible director. Columbia Pictures reportedly explored the possibility of Richard Donner directing the project. 20th Century Fox showed interest with Joe Dante attached as a potential filmmaker. Each studio believed Jurassic Park possessed enormous commercial potential because it combined science fiction, adventure, family entertainment, and spectacular visual possibilities. However, Michael Crichton personally favored Steven Spielberg. He believed Spielberg possessed the unique combination of imagination, technical skill, storytelling ability, and emotional sensitivity necessary for such an ambitious film. Crichton understood that Jurassic Park would present extraordinary filmmaking challenges unlike anything previously attempted. Among all possible directors, Spielberg seemed the most capable of turning an impossible concept into believable cinema. Universal Pictures strongly supported Spielberg's involvement. The studio quickly secured the film rights before competitors could complete their negotiations. Remarkably, Universal acquired Jurassic Park months before the novel itself was even published. This demonstrated extraordinary confidence in both Crichton's writing and Spielberg's ability to transform it into a successful film. James Cameron's missed opportunity. Years later, acclaimed filmmaker James Cameron revealed that he had also attempted to purchase the film rights. Unfortunately for him, Spielberg had already secured the project only hours earlier. Cameron later reflected that his version of Jurassic Park would have been dramatically different. He imagined a much darker, more violent, and more frightening adaptation emphasizing horror over family adventure. After watching Spielberg's completed film, however, Cameron admitted that Spielberg had been the perfect choice. He recognized that Spielberg successfully balanced excitement, suspense, wonder, humor, and emotional storytelling in ways that allowed both adults and children to enjoy the movie. This balance became one of Jurassic Park's defining achievements. Instead of focusing exclusively on horror, Spielberg created a film capable of inspiring amazement alongside fear. Beginning visual development. Almost immediately after Universal secured the rights, artists began creating storyboards and production sketches. Storyboards are illustrated sequences showing how scenes may appear before filming begins. Because Jurassic Park would rely heavily upon visual effects, these drawings became essential planning tools. Artists carefully designed dinosaur encounters, action sequences, camera movements, and environmental layouts months before production started. As technology improved, these drawings evolved into simple animated previews called animatics. Using available computer technology, artists created rough-moving versions of important scenes. Although primitive compared to today's digital previsualization techniques, these animations helped Spielberg understand how enormous dinosaurs would interact with human actors inside three-dimensional environments. Every scene required careful planning because many dinosaurs would not physically exist during filming. Actors needed to know exactly where imaginary creatures would eventually appear. Designing an entire dinosaur world. One of Spielberg's earliest production decisions involved hiring production designer Rick Carter long before filming began. Because Jurassic Park takes place almost entirely on a fictional tropical island, every environment required detailed planning. Spielberg and Carter spent countless hours discussing which parts of Crichton's novel would translate effectively to film. Not every location described in the book could realistically appear on screen. Some ideas were modified. Others disappeared completely. Their goal was creating an island that felt both believable and visually exciting. They designed visitor centers, laboratories, roads, security systems, dinosaur enclosures, control rooms, maintenance facilities, and observation areas that appeared technologically advanced while remaining practical for storytelling. Everything needed to support the illusion that Jurassic Park truly existed. Spielberg's childhood fascination. Spielberg often explained that directing Jurassic Park allowed him to fulfill one of his oldest childhood dreams. As a young boy fascinated by prehistoric life, he constantly imagined meeting real dinosaurs. Rather than treating the project merely as another assignment, Spielberg approached it with genuine excitement. He believed audiences should experience the same wonder he had imagined throughout his own childhood. This philosophy shaped many of the film's most memorable scenes. When Alan Grant first sees a living Brachiosaurus, the audience experiences overwhelming amazement before encountering danger. Spielberg intentionally delayed frightening moments so viewers could first appreciate the miracle of seeing extinct creatures alive. This emotional balance distinguished Jurassic Park from ordinary monster movies. Inspiration from classic adventure films. Although Jurassic Park introduced revolutionary technology, Spielberg drew inspiration from many older films. One major influence was Jaws. Rather than constantly showing the dangerous creature, Jaws built suspense through anticipation. Audiences feared what they could not fully see. Spielberg applied this same storytelling technique to Jurassic Park. The Tyrannosaurus does not immediately appear. Instead, viewers first notice mysterious sounds, shaking water, broken fences, frightened reactions, and heavy footsteps. Suspense builds gradually before the predator finally emerges. Another important inspiration came from King Kong. Spielberg admired its ambition, emotional storytelling, and groundbreaking visual effects. King Kong demonstrated how audiences could emotionally connect with giant creatures despite their terrifying appearance. Jurassic Park similarly presents dinosaurs as living animals rather than simple monsters. Spielberg also admired adventure films exploring humanity's relationship with untamed nature. These influences encouraged him to portray Isla Nublar as a beautiful yet unpredictable wilderness where modern technology could never completely dominate natural forces. Even classic giant monster films contributed inspiration. As a child, Spielberg had watched dinosaur and monster movies with enormous enthusiasm. Although many older films possessed limited special effects, they inspired generations of filmmakers to imagine prehistoric creatures on screen. Spielberg hoped Jurassic Park would become the most realistic dinosaur film ever created, taking additional time for development. As planning continued, Spielberg realized Jurassic Park demanded much more preparation than originally expected. Creating believable dinosaurs represented an unprecedented technical challenge. Instead of rushing into production, he temporarily shifted attention toward directing another film while Jurassic Park continued developing behind the scenes. This decision allowed artists, writers, designers, and visual effects specialists additional time to solve complex creative problems. The art department also contributed to another Universal production before returning to Jurassic Park. Although progress slowed temporarily, the additional development time ultimately strengthened every aspect of the film, balancing multiple major projects. After completing another feature film, Spielberg originally hoped to direct Schindler's List immediately. However, Universal executives preferred that Jurassic Park be completed first. From the studio's perspective, Jurassic Park represented an enormous commercial opportunity requiring Spielberg's full attention. Spielberg agreed, understanding the project's importance despite his personal interest in directing Schindler's List. This scheduling decision created one of the busiest periods of his career. Eventually, he supervised Jurassic Park's post-production while simultaneously directing Schindler's List overseas. Managing two completely different films at once demonstrated extraordinary organizational skill and creative discipline. Refining the park's design. As pre-production progressed, numerous design changes occurred. Early concepts included additional locations that ultimately disappeared from the finished movie. Among these was a large hotel intended to accommodate future Jurassic Park guests. While interesting, Spielberg concluded that the hotel distracted from the survival story unfolding after the park's collapse. Removing unnecessary locations streamlined the narrative, allowing audiences to remain focused on the main characters and dinosaur encounters. Every design decision emphasized efficiency and storytelling clarity. Managing the budget. Producing Jurassic Park required one of the largest budgets available during the early 1990s. Although exact figures have occasionally varied, the project represented an enormous financial investment. Building realistic sets, developing revolutionary visual effects, constructing full-scale animatronic dinosaurs, traveling to multiple filming locations, and assembling world-class creative teams demanded substantial resources. Universal understood that achieving Spielberg's vision required supporting ambitious production methods rather than cutting corners. The studio recognized that Jurassic Park possessed the potential to redefine blockbuster filmmaking. Kathleen Kennedy and Gerald Molen. Jurassic Park benefited from outstanding producers working alongside Spielberg. Kathleen Kennedy supervised many creative aspects of production. She helped coordinate artistic decisions, maintained communication among departments, and ensured the film's creative vision remained consistent throughout development. Gerald Molen concentrated on production management. His responsibilities included organizing logistics, scheduling, budgeting, coordinating crews, and solving countless practical challenges arising during filming. Together, Kennedy and Molen formed an effective partnership balancing creativity with efficient production management. Their leadership allowed Spielberg to focus primarily upon directing performances and shaping the film's emotional experience. Dean Cundey's cinematography. Cinematographer Dean Cundey played a vital role in establishing Jurassic Park's visual identity. Working closely with Spielberg, Cundey sought a realistic appearance despite the extraordinary subject matter. Instead of creating an overly stylized fantasy world, he photographed the island with crisp detail, vibrant colors, and believable natural lighting. This approach helped audiences accept impossible creatures within realistic environments. One of Cundey's greatest challenges involved balancing visual effects requirements with cinematic storytelling. Early computer-generated dinosaurs appeared most convincing under carefully controlled lighting conditions. Visual effects artists often preferred shadows because they concealed technical limitations. Meanwhile, Spielberg loved dramatic imagery emphasizing the dinosaurs' enormous size and emotional impact. Cundey successfully balanced these competing priorities. His cinematography allowed the dinosaurs to remain believable while preserving Spielberg's spectacular visual storytelling. The result created what many viewers described as heightened reality. Everything appeared realistic while simultaneously feeling larger than life. Michael Kahn's editing. Another essential contributor was editor Michael Kahn, one of Spielberg's most trusted longtime collaborators. Editing determines how individual shots combine into coherent storytelling. Kahn carefully shaped pacing, suspense, emotional rhythm, and action throughout the film. Many of Jurassic Park's greatest sequences depend upon precise editing. One of the most fascinating aspects of Jurassic Park, 1993, is how its screenplay evolved over several years before reaching its final form. Although audiences often remember the film for its revolutionary dinosaurs and breathtaking action, the story itself went through numerous rewrites, creative disagreements, and major structural changes. Several talented writers contributed ideas, but it was Steven Spielberg's constant guidance that ultimately shaped the screenplay into one of the greatest adventure films ever made. The journey from Michael Crichton's best-selling novel to the finished screenplay was far more complicated than simply adapting chapters from a book. Every draft attempted to solve difficult storytelling problems. The filmmakers had to decide which characters deserved greater attention, which scenes should remain faithful to the novel, which ideas should be removed, and how to balance science, adventure, suspense, emotion, and humor within a film running just over 2 hours. The screenplay's development demonstrates how filmmaking is often a process of collaboration rather than the work of a single individual. Each writer contributed valuable ideas, some of which survived into the final film while others disappeared entirely. Together, these creative efforts transformed a complex science fiction novel into a cinematic masterpiece that appealed to audiences of every age. Michael Crichton returns to write the screenplay. After Universal Pictures secured the film rights, Michael Crichton was offered an additional payment to adapt his own novel into a screenplay. At first, Crichton felt uncertain about accepting the job. He had already spent years developing Jurassic Park as both a screenplay and a novel. By the time the book became a bestseller, he had lived with these characters and ideas for so long that he had grown mentally exhausted. He later admitted that he was becoming tired of nearly every major element of the story. He felt exhausted by Alan Grant. He felt exhausted by Ian Malcolm. He even felt exhausted by dinosaurs themselves. This reaction is understandable for many authors. Spending years thinking about the same story every day can create creative fatigue. Writers often reach a point where they feel they have explored every possible version of their ideas. Despite his exhaustion, Crichton recognized something important. No one understood Jurassic Park better than he did. He understood the scientific concepts, the philosophical themes, the pacing of the story, and the motivations behind every character. Even if another writer eventually completed the screenplay, Crichton believed it was important that the first adaptation come directly from the person who had originally created the world. He also hoped that by writing the initial screenplay himself, many misunderstandings that frequently occur during adaptations could be avoided. Instead of explaining his intentions to another writer, he could personally determine how the novel would be transformed into a movie. Working closely with Steven Spielberg. Before writing a single page of the screenplay, Crichton met repeatedly with Steven Spielberg. These meetings became extremely important because Spielberg did not simply want a copy of the novel placed on screen. He wanted to understand which parts of the story Crichton considered essential and which elements could be changed without damaging its core message. Together they discussed every major section of the novel. They talked about the characters. They analyzed the pacing. They debated scientific explanations. They considered how suspense should build throughout the film. Spielberg shared the scenes that excited him most as a filmmaker while Crichton explained why particular moments existed within the novel. These conversations established the creative direction that guided every later screenplay draft. Rather than beginning production immediately, Spielberg wanted both writer and director to completely understand each other's vision. The first screenplay draft. Crichton completed his first screenplay draft during the autumn of 1990. Although everyone respected the enormous effort involved, neither Crichton nor Spielberg felt satisfied with the result. The biggest problem involved pacing. Instead of gradually building suspense like the novel, the screenplay rushed toward action almost immediately. The audience encountered dinosaurs and dangerous situations before developing meaningful emotional connections with the characters. In novels, readers naturally spend more time learning about personalities because books contain far more pages than films. Movies must communicate the same emotional information much more quickly. Crichton's first screenplay struggled to achieve this balance. The action itself worked reasonably well, but viewers would have little reason to care about the people experiencing those events. Spielberg believed the film needed stronger anticipation before the chaos began. The audience should first admire Jurassic Park before watching it collapse. Only then would the disaster carry genuine emotional weight. A different writing strategy. Instead of rewriting the entire screenplay at once, Spielberg suggested a new method. Crichton began revising approximately 40 pages at a time. This approach allowed Spielberg to evaluate each section carefully before moving forward. The strategy proved much more successful. The first revised pages received a considerably stronger response. Working in smaller sections allowed Crichton to concentrate on improving individual scenes without becoming overwhelmed by rewriting an entire screenplay simultaneously. During this period, the production artists were already creating detailed storyboards. These visual plans helped Crichton imagine how scenes would eventually appear on screen. Rather than writing abstract descriptions, he could now picture camera angles, dinosaur movements, action choreography, and environmental layouts. The screenplay gradually became more cinematic because the writing evolved alongside visual planning. Eventually, Crichton completed the remaining revisions. Although the screenplay improved significantly, Spielberg still believed additional work remained necessary. Contributions from production designer Rick Carter. One unusual aspect of Jurassic Park's development involved production designer Rick Carter. Normally, production designers focus primarily on visual environments rather than story structure. However, Spielberg encouraged Carter to participate in numerous creative meetings with Crichton. As Carter designed laboratories, visitor centers, dinosaur paddocks, roads, and jungle locations, he also suggested storytelling improvements. Many of his ideas influenced later screenplay revisions. This collaboration demonstrated Spielberg's belief that filmmaking works best when every department contributes creatively. Instead of separating writing from visual design, Jurassic Park allowed both processes to evolve together. Artists influenced writers. Writers influenced artists. Each improvement strengthened the other. Early versions of John Hammond. One of the most dramatic differences between early screenplay drafts and the finished film involved John Hammond. Readers of Crichton's novel encounter a very different Hammond from the lovable grandfather portrayed by Richard Attenborough. The original Hammond is far more selfish, greedy, and obsessed with financial success. His primary concern involves making Jurassic Park profitable rather than educating the public. Early screenplay drafts preserved much of this darker personality. Hammond appeared considerably less sympathetic. He possessed fewer emotional scenes. His role in the overall story remained much smaller. As development continued, Spielberg gradually transformed Hammond into a warmer, more optimistic visionary. Instead of becoming a traditional villain, he became a dreamer whose excessive confidence blinded him to enormous risks. This change made the story emotionally richer because audiences could sympathize with Hammond even while recognizing his mistakes. Ian Malcolm's original personality. Another important difference involved Ian Malcolm. Today, Malcolm is remembered as one of cinema's most charismatic characters. His witty observations, philosophical discussions, and unique speaking style became defining elements of the franchise. However, early screenplay drafts presented Malcolm very differently. He possessed little humor. His dialogue emphasized mathematics and scientific theory almost exclusively. While intellectually interesting, this version lacked the charm audiences eventually embraced. Later writers would dramatically reshape Malcolm into a more entertaining personality while preserving his important philosophical role. Michael Crichton's planned departure. Even while writing the screenplay, Crichton always expected another writer to complete later revisions. He openly informed Spielberg that his contribution would primarily involve creating the initial adaptation. He believed fresh creative voices would eventually improve character development and dialogue. This attitude surprised Spielberg because many writers prefer maintaining complete control over adaptations of their own work. Crichton understood that filmmaking differs from novel writing. Movies require collaboration. Different writers often excel at different aspects of storytelling. Rather than resisting new contributions, he welcomed additional perspectives. Searching for another writer. After Crichton completed his work, the filmmakers began searching for someone capable of refining the screenplay further. Many respected writers became candidates. The production team wanted someone who could preserve the novel's intelligence while strengthening emotional storytelling. At this stage, Rick Carter continued making adjustments based upon conversations he had previously held with Crichton. Several important ideas emerged during these revisions. Among them was Hammond personally inviting Alan Grant and Ellie Sattler to inspect the park. The screenplay also continued developing Hammond into a more emotionally engaging character. These seemingly small changes significantly improved audience investment. Malia Scotch-Marmot joins the project. Eventually, writer Malia Scotch-Marmot became the next major contributor. Unlike Crichton, she chose not to build directly upon previous screenplay drafts. Instead, she returned to the original novel and began writing an entirely fresh adaptation. This approach allowed her to reconsider every scene without feeling restricted by earlier versions. She also studied Spielberg's personal copy of the novel. Throughout the book, Spielberg had highlighted scenes, themes, and ideas he particularly admired. These notes helped Scotch-Marmot understand exactly what interested the director most. She additionally reviewed the growing collection of storyboards developed during pre-production. By combining the novel, Spielberg's preferences, and the visual planning already completed, she created another distinctive interpretation of Jurassic Park. Strengthening the characters. Scotch-Marmot believed the characters required greater emotional depth. She wanted audiences to care more deeply about the people before dinosaurs began attacking. Rather than simply reacting to dangerous situations, every character needed personal motivations and emotional development. She particularly focused upon Alan Grant. Compared with Malcolm, Grant seemed emotionally restrained. Scotch-Marmot therefore expanded Grant's personality and relationships. One of her most significant additions involved strengthening the romantic relationship between Grant and Ellie Sattler. Neither the novel nor Crichton's screenplay emphasized this relationship. By developing their emotional connection, she increased audience investment in both characters. Their partnership became warmer, more believable, and more meaningful. Exploring the theme of nature. Scotch-Marmot also emphasized one of the novel's deepest philosophical ideas. She believed Jurassic Park should constantly remind audiences that nature resists human control. This theme appeared visually throughout her screenplay. For example, jungle vegetation slowly invaded unfinished areas of the visitor center. Plants pushed through construction. Vines covered walls. Nature continually reclaimed territory humans attempted to dominate. These environmental details symbolized the larger message of the story. Despite advanced technology, modern civilization could never permanently conquer the natural world. Life continually adapts. Perhaps the most remarkable screenplay differences involved John Hammond's fate. In Michael Crichton's novel, Hammond dies after falling down a hillside and being attacked by small carnivorous dinosaurs. Early screenplay drafts preserved similar endings. Another version had Hammond killed by velociraptors inside the visitor center while his pre-recorded welcome presentation continued playing in the background. Rick Carter later imagined Hammond dying after falling onto a model of Jurassic Park itself. This symbolic ending suggested he was literally destroyed by his own dream. Scotch-Marmot proposed another variation. Her screenplay had Hammond remaining alone on Isla Nublar after everyone else escaped. Eventually he drowned in a shallow puddle while a mosquito landed on his arm, creating a poetic visual connection to the prehistoric mosquitoes responsible for resurrecting dinosaurs. Spielberg ultimately rejected every one of these endings. Instead, Hammond survives. This decision reinforces the film's emotional message. Rather than dying, Hammond must live with the consequences of his mistakes. His regret becomes more powerful than death. A difficult creative setback. Scotch Marmo spent several months developing her screenplay. She worked closely with Spielberg throughout the process, regularly submitting small sections for discussion and revision. Unlike many Hollywood productions where writers deliver complete drafts with minimal communication, this project involved constant collaboration. Despite everyone's efforts, Spielberg remained dissatisfied after reading the finished screenplay. Although disappointed, Scotch Marmo accepted the situation professionally. She later acknowledged an important reality about creative work. Sometimes talented people simply fail to find the right solution despite sincere effort. Success cannot always be guaranteed through hard work alone. Recognizing when another perspective becomes necessary demonstrates maturity rather than failure. David Koepp joins Jurassic Park. After deciding additional changes remained necessary, Spielberg immediately searched for another screenwriter. Universal recommended David Koepp, who had recently demonstrated exceptional storytelling abilities on other major projects. Unlike previous writers, Koepp chose an unusual strategy. Instead of reading earlier screenplay drafts, he first returned to Crichton's original novel. He wanted his ideas to develop independently rather than being influenced by previous adaptations. Only after completing his own screenplay would he examine earlier versions. This approach allowed completely fresh creative thinking. Spielberg encouraged him to start almost from the beginning. Rather than asking him to repair existing drafts, Spielberg invited Koepp to build his own version. Choosing what to keep. Although Koepp enjoyed considerable creative freedom, Spielberg insisted upon preserving two scenes from the novel. The first involved the Tyrannosaurus attacking the tour vehicles. The second featured the velociraptors hunting children inside the visitor center kitchen. Spielberg considered both sequences essential because they represented the novel's greatest moments of suspense. Everything else remained open for interpretation. This freedom allowed Koepp to reshape the screenplay while preserving its most unforgettable action scenes. Simplifying complex science. One of Koepp's greatest challenges involved explaining dinosaur cloning. Crichton's novel spends many pages discussing genetics, DNA sequencing, molecular biology, and cloning technology. While fascinating in print, lengthy scientific lectures risk slowing a fast-paced adventure film. Spielberg solved this problem with an elegant idea. Instead of lengthy dialogue, visitors learn about cloning through a short animated educational presentation inside the park. The cheerful cartoon character Mr. DNA explains complicated science using humor, colorful animation, and simple language. This scene accomplishes several goals simultaneously. It teaches audiences how dinosaurs were created. It reinforces Jurassic Park's theme park atmosphere. It maintains an entertaining pace. It avoids overwhelming viewers with scientific terminology. This creative solution became one of the screenplay's smartest storytelling decisions. Creating Mr. DNA. The famous animated guide received the name Mr. DNA after Spielberg jokingly referred to the educational character during production discussions. Although the scene lasts only a few minutes, it became one of the film's most memorable moments. Its playful style contrasts sharply with the terrifying events that later unfold. The educational presentation reflects Hammond's belief that Jurassic Park remains a family-friendly attraction even though disaster is already approaching. Solving Ian Malcolm. Koepp encountered another difficult challenge while writing Ian Malcolm. Much of Malcolm's dialogue in the novel consists of advanced mathematical discussions explaining chaos theory. Although intellectually interesting, such conversations risked confusing movie audiences. Initially, Koepp considered using animated graphics illustrating Malcolm's scientific ideas while he spoke. This technique might have made complicated concepts easier to understand. However, Spielberg rejected the proposal. He believed inserting explanatory graphics would interrupt the film's realistic visual style. Rather than adding visual diagrams, Spielberg encouraged Koepp to simplify Malcolm's dialogue. Some of Malcolm's characteristics were temporarily considered for transfer to Alan Grant, following ideas explored in previous drafts. Ultimately, Spielberg decided Malcolm should remain in the story, but his mathematical theories would be expressed through memorable conversations rather than lengthy technical explanations. This decision transformed Malcolm into one of the screenplay's greatest strengths. Instead of overwhelming audiences with equations, he communicates profound philosophical ideas through wit, charisma, and simple observations. His famous warning that scientists became so concerned with whether they could accomplish something that they never considered whether they should became one of cinema's most memorable reflections on scientific responsibility. The screenplay that reached the screen. By the time Jurassic Park entered production, its screenplay had undergone years of evolution. The final stage of developing the screenplay for Jurassic Park, 1993, was one of the most important periods in the film's production. By this point, years of planning, writing, rewriting, brainstorming, and artistic experimentation had already taken place. Michael Crichton had written the original novel and the first screenplay drafts. Malia Scotch-Marmot had contributed emotional depth and stronger character development. Rick Carter had influenced the structure through his production design ideas. Now David Koepp and Steven Spielberg worked together to refine every scene until the screenplay became both exciting and emotionally satisfying. This final phase demonstrates how great films are rarely created from a single script. Instead, they evolve through constant revision. Every conversation, every rehearsal, every actor's suggestion, and every production challenge influenced the final version. Spielberg believed no scene should remain unchanged simply because it had already been written. If a better idea emerged, he welcomed it, even if it required rewriting scenes during filming. The result was a screenplay that balanced thrilling action with memorable characters, scientific imagination with emotional storytelling, and spectacular visual effects with meaningful themes. David Koepp continues refining the script. After completing his first screenplay draft during the spring of 1992, David Koepp did not consider his work finished. Spielberg understood that writing was an ongoing creative process rather than a single event. Instead of immediately preparing for filming, he continued gathering opinions from trusted collaborators. One of the people Spielberg consulted was Malia Scotch-Marmot, who had previously written her own adaptation of the novel. Rather than ignoring her earlier contributions simply because another writer had taken over, Spielberg respected her understanding of the story and invited her to evaluate Koepp's screenplay. Scotch-Marmot carefully studied the draft before preparing approximately 12 pages of detailed comments. These observations included suggestions regarding character development, emotional pacing, dialogue, and storytelling. Instead of rejecting another writer's criticism, Koepp welcomed her feedback. He found many of her observations valuable. This attitude reflected the collaborative spirit that defined Jurassic Park's production. Everyone involved cared more about creating the best possible movie than protecting personal pride. Spielberg encouraged this atmosphere throughout production. Every useful suggestion, regardless of who offered it, received serious consideration. A close collaboration with Spielberg. David Koepp worked extremely closely with Steven Spielberg throughout the screenplay's development. Rather than simply receiving instructions, Koepp participated in continuous discussions about every important scene. Spielberg frequently proposed new ideas. Sometimes he wanted greater suspense. Other times he requested more emotional depth. Occasionally he suggested simplifying scenes to improve pacing. Koepp then revised the screenplay accordingly. This constant communication allowed both writer and director to shape the film together rather than separately. Unlike many productions where scripts remain largely unchanged after approval, Jurassic Park's screenplay continued evolving until filming was almost complete. Even after cameras started rolling, Spielberg and Koepp continued rewriting scenes whenever better ideas emerged. This willingness to improve the screenplay throughout production became one of the film's greatest strengths. Bringing Ian Malcolm back into the story. One significant decision involved Dr. Ian Malcolm. Earlier screenplay drafts had reduced Malcolm's role or even considered removing him entirely because his scientific discussions about chaos theory appeared difficult to translate into exciting movie dialogue. Everything changed after Jeff Goldblum auditioned. His performance immediately impressed Spielberg. Goldblum brought intelligence, charm, humor, confidence, and originality to the character. Spielberg instantly recognized that Malcolm deserved a much larger role. Rather than eliminating him, Spielberg insisted that Koepp rewrite the screenplay to fully include Malcolm once again. This decision dramatically improved the film. Goldblum transformed Malcolm into one of the story's most memorable personalities. Instead of delivering dry scientific lectures, he expressed complicated philosophical ideas through humor, wit, sarcasm, and conversational dialogue. His performance made audiences enjoy listening to discussions about science rather than feeling overwhelmed by technical information, making the characters more interesting. David Koepp understood that audiences remember characters just as much as spectacular action sequences. He therefore searched for opportunities to make the relationships feel more natural. One small but effective addition involved Ian Malcolm flirting with Ellie Sattler. Malcolm openly admires Ellie throughout the film, complimenting her appearance and showing obvious romantic interest. These moments create subtle humor while also revealing important personality differences. Malcolm appears confident and charming. Grant responds with quiet jealousy despite rarely expressing his emotions openly. Without requiring lengthy conversations about relationships, these brief exchanges reveal emotional tension between the characters. Such moments make them feel like real people rather than simply scientists discussing dinosaurs. Koepp understood that believable personalities strengthen audience investment during dangerous situations. When viewers care about characters, every action sequence becomes more suspenseful. Another major improvement involved John Hammond. Earlier screenplay drafts portrayed Hammond more similarly to the novel, where he appears selfish, arrogant, and primarily motivated by financial success. Spielberg believed audiences would respond more strongly if Hammond became a visionary dreamer instead. David Koepp helped reshape the character accordingly. Rather than emphasizing corporate ambition, Hammond became someone genuinely determined to inspire wonder. His dream resembled that of Walt Disney, who imagined creating places where families could experience imagination and happiness together. Like Disney, Hammond wanted visitors to leave amazed by something they had never believed possible. This inspiration transformed Hammond into a tragic rather than villainous character. His failure becomes emotionally powerful because his intentions are fundamentally good. He simply underestimates nature's complexity. By the film's conclusion, Hammond's heartbreak carries much greater emotional weight because audiences understand he never intended harm. Laura Dern's influence on Ellie Sattler. Jurassic Park also benefited from input provided directly by its actors. Laura Dern, portraying Dr. Ellie Sattler, contributed significantly to her character's development. During screenplay discussions, Dern suggested changes ensuring Ellie remained independent, intelligent, courageous, and professionally respected. Rather than functioning merely as Grant's companion, Ellie became a fully capable scientist whose knowledge repeatedly saves lives. Her dialogue reflected confidence and expertise. She questioned Hammond's decisions. She challenged dangerous assumptions. She volunteered for difficult missions. She refused to become a passive observer. These adjustments strengthened one of Jurassic Park's most admired characters. Ellie demonstrates that bravery, intelligence, and leadership belong equally to every member of the team regardless of gender. Her portrayal continues to be praised as one of the strongest female characters in modern adventure cinema. Avoiding unnecessary personal drama. David Koepp also made an interesting storytelling decision regarding character backgrounds. He believed audiences attending Jurassic Park primarily wanted excitement, suspense, dinosaurs, and adventure. Extensive discussions about each character's private life might interrupt the momentum. Therefore, Koepp intentionally limited personal backstories. Instead of lengthy conversations explaining childhood experiences, family histories, or emotional trauma, characters reveal themselves through actions. Grant's transformation becomes visible through his growing relationship with Lex and Tim. Ellie's courage appears through her willingness to face danger. Malcolm's intelligence emerges naturally during conversations. Hammond's optimism becomes obvious through his enthusiasm. By allowing personalities to develop through behavior rather than exposition, the screenplay maintains a faster pace while preserving emotional depth. The famous ice cream scene. One scene proved surprisingly difficult to write. After the park collapses, Ellie and Hammond briefly share melting ice cream while discussing everything that has gone wrong. Although seemingly simple, this quiet conversation serves several important purposes. It gives audiences a short emotional pause after intense action. It allows Hammond to confront the failure of his dream. It demonstrates Ellie's honesty and compassion. It explores the central theme of responsibility. Because the conversation carried such emotional importance, Spielberg, Koepp, Richard Attenborough, and Laura Dern all contributed ideas. The scene underwent approximately 27 rewrites. Changes continued even while filming. Every line required careful balance. Hammond needed to remain sympathetic without avoiding responsibility. Ellie needed to criticize his mistakes without appearing cruel. Eventually, the conversation became one of the film's most emotionally meaningful moments. Multiple versions of dialogue. Another unusual feature of Koepp's writing process involved dialogue options. For particularly important scenes, he wrote several different versions of the same conversation. Instead of forcing Spielberg to accept one specific wording, Koepp provided alternative lines. This gave the director flexibility during filming. Actors could experiment. Spielberg could evaluate which version felt most natural. If circumstances changed on set, another option already existed. This creative flexibility allowed performances to develop more organically. Rather than treating dialogue as completely fixed, Spielberg encouraged natural interaction whenever possible. Building suspense like Jaws. Steven Spielberg often looked back at one of his earlier masterpieces, Jaws, while directing Jurassic Park. One lesson from Jaws influenced the screenplay enormously. The audience should not immediately see the main monster. Instead, suspense grows through anticipation. In Jurassic Park, the Tyrannosaurus Rex remains unseen for a surprisingly long time. Before audiences actually witness the enormous predator, Spielberg creates tension using indirect clues. Rain begins falling. The electric fence loses power. A goat disappears. Heavy footsteps echo through the darkness. Ripples appear inside cups of water. Characters become increasingly nervous. Only after anticipation reaches its peak does the Tyrannosaurus finally emerge. This structure makes the reveal far more powerful than showing the dinosaur immediately. Fear grows naturally because imagination often becomes more frightening than direct observation. Expanding the Jeep chase. The screenplay originally handled the Tyrannosaurus attack differently. Early versions ended after the dinosaur approached the vehicles and the survivors escaped. Spielberg proposed making the sequence much larger. Instead of allowing the characters simply to drive away, he suggested that the Tyrannosaurus actively chase them through the jungle. This change dramatically increased excitement. The chase transformed an already memorable sequence into one of cinema's greatest action scenes. The audience experiences continuous danger rather than a brief encounter. The Tyrannosaurus becomes an active hunter instead of merely an obstacle. This addition demonstrates Spielberg's extraordinary instinct for visual storytelling. Rewriting until the last moment. Many filmmakers stop revising once production begins. Spielberg followed a different philosophy. He believed every scene could become stronger. Consequently, rewrites continued until filming started. Even afterward, Spielberg and Koepp continued improving dialogue, adjusting scenes, and refining character interactions. Actors occasionally suggested ideas. Production realities created new opportunities. Unexpected discoveries during rehearsals inspired further improvements. Rather than viewing the screenplay as finished, Spielberg treated it as a living document evolving alongside production. This openness allowed Jurassic Park to achieve exceptional quality. Michael Crichton's opinion of the finished screenplay. Although the final screenplay differed greatly from Michael Crichton's original adaptation, he welcomed the changes. He understood that novels and films function differently. A novel possesses hundreds of pages. A movie has limited running time. Different storytelling methods become necessary. Rather than demanding strict loyalty to every chapter, Crichton judged the screenplay according to one standard. Did it create an outstanding film? His answer was yes. He believed the changes remained faithful to the spirit of Jurassic Park even when specific scenes or characters evolved considerably. This attitude reflected remarkable creative generosity. Instead of insisting upon complete accuracy, Crichton valued effective storytelling. Condensing a large novel. One of the greatest adaptation challenges involved the novel's enormous length. The original book contains nearly 400 pages filled with scientific explanations, multiple subplots, additional dinosaur encounters, philosophical discussions, and numerous supporting characters. No film could include everything. Spielberg estimated that only a small portion of the novel could realistically appear on screen. The filmmakers therefore concentrated upon their favorite sequences. Rather than attempting to reproduce every chapter, they selected scenes that best represented the adventure, suspense, and emotional journey. This approach produced a more focused narrative. Every remaining scene served an important purpose. Reducing the number of dinosaurs. Another practical decision involved reducing the number of dinosaur species. The novel features many more prehistoric animals than the finished movie. Spielberg realized creating every dinosaur would exceed available technology, production time, and budget. Instead, he concentrated upon a carefully chosen collection of species. Each dinosaur received greater attention. The Tyrannosaurus became unforgettable. The Velociraptors dominated the climax. The Brachiosaurus inspired wonder. The Triceratops created empathy. By limiting quantity, Spielberg increased quality. Every dinosaur appearance became meaningful. Reducing graphic violence. Readers of Crichton's novel know that it contains significantly more graphic violence than the film. The book describes dinosaur attacks in disturbing detail. Spielberg intentionally reduced this violence. His goal was not simply making the movie appropriate for younger audiences. He believed excessive gore might actually weaken suspense. Graphic violence often reminds audiences they are watching special effects. Subtle horror allows imagination to participate. Crichton agreed. He explained that the novel required stronger descriptions because readers could not physically see the dinosaurs. The film naturally achieved realism through extraordinary visual effects. Additional graphic violence therefore became unnecessary. One sequence removed very early involved small dinosaurs attacking and killing a baby. Although this event established danger effectively in the novel, Spielberg believed it crossed an emotional boundary inappropriate for his film. He wanted Jurassic Park to remain thrilling without becoming overwhelmingly disturbing. Removing the scene preserved the adventurous tone while maintaining suspense. The Lost River sequence. Perhaps the most famous deleted sequence involved the Tyrannosaurus chasing Grant and the children along a river while they escaped aboard a raft. Many readers considered this one of the novel's greatest action scenes. Nevertheless, David Koepp decided not to include it. Several reasons influenced this choice. First, he believed audiences had already experienced enough Tyrannosaurus encounters. Another attack risked becoming repetitive. Second, filming such a sequence would have required enormous expense. Most importantly, early computer-generated imagery struggled with water. Creating a realistic swimming Tyrannosaurus exceeded technological limitations at the time. The filmmakers wisely recognized what remained impossible. Rather than forcing imperfect effects onto the screen, they concentrated on sequences they could execute brilliantly. Years later, as technology improved, similar ideas finally appeared in later Jurassic films. Other scenes saved for future movies. Several additional novel sequences disappeared from Jurassic Park only to reappear in later franchise installments. These included adventures inside an enormous aviary filled with flying reptiles. Another memorable moment involving characters trapped behind a waterfall eventually inspired scenes in later sequels. Rather than disappearing forever, these ideas waited until future films possessed appropriate stories and technological capabilities. Perfecting the opening scene. Even the opening changed repeatedly. The novel originally begins with injured workers attempting to conceal a dinosaur attack. Other screenplay versions opened with mysterious dinosaur attacks on beaches. Another draft began by showing scientists extracting blood from mosquitoes trapped inside amber. David Koepp initially adapted the novel's opening fairly closely. However, Spielberg believed it resembled the beginning of Jaws, where unseen danger gradually emerges through mysterious attacks. Wanting Jurassic Park to establish its own identity immediately, Spielberg suggested opening directly with the dangerous Velociraptor transfer. This sequence immediately introduces suspense, demonstrates the intelligence of the raptors, reveals that the park already struggles to control its animals, and motivates the investor's decision to inspect the island. It became one of the film's strongest openings. The casting of Jurassic Park, 1993, was one of the most important stages in the film's production. While audiences often remember the movie for its groundbreaking visual effects and unforgettable dinosaurs, the human cast played an equally important role in making the story believable and emotionally engaging. Steven Spielberg understood that no matter how realistic the dinosaurs looked, the audience would only truly care if they believed in the people experiencing the adventure. Unlike many Hollywood blockbusters that relied on expensive superstar actors, Spielberg made a different creative decision. Instead of filling the film with the biggest celebrities of the time, he focused on selecting talented performers who could disappear into their characters. He wanted audiences to see paleontologists, mathematicians, engineers, children, and park employees, not movie stars playing those roles. This approach ultimately became one of the greatest strengths of Jurassic Park. Every actor contributed authenticity, intelligence, humor, and emotional depth, helping transform what could have been a simple monster movie into one of cinema's greatest adventure films. Balancing the budget. One of Spielberg's biggest challenges involved balancing the film's budget. Creating realistic dinosaurs required technology that had never been attempted before. Industrial Light and Magic and Stan Winston's team were building enormous animatronic creatures while simultaneously developing revolutionary computer-generated imagery. These visual effects consumed a significant portion of the production budget. Spielberg therefore faced an important decision. He could either spend millions of dollars hiring the biggest Hollywood celebrities or invest that money into making the dinosaurs as realistic as possible. He chose the second option. Spielberg believed audiences would come to the theater primarily to experience dinosaurs unlike anything they had ever seen before. If the dinosaurs looked fake, even the most famous actors would not save the movie. Instead of paying enormous salaries to major stars, Spielberg searched for skilled actors who were respected for their performances rather than their celebrity status. His goal was simple. He wanted good, solid actors who could completely convince audiences that Jurassic Park was a real place. This practical decision also allowed the filmmakers to dedicate more resources toward visual effects, sound design, animatronics, and production quality. Looking back, it proved to be exactly the right choice. Finding the perfect Alan Grant. One of the most important casting decisions involved Dr. Alan Grant. Grant serves as the audience's guide through Jurassic Park. He introduces viewers to the scientific world of dinosaurs while gradually transforming from someone uncomfortable around children into a caring protector. Because the character appears in nearly every major scene, Spielberg needed an actor capable of balancing intelligence, seriousness, warmth, courage, and humor. Several famous actors were considered. Kurt Russell attracted attention because of his action movie experience and charismatic screen presence. Richard Dreyfuss also emerged as a possibility due to his previous collaborations with Spielberg. Other respected performers, including William Hurt, Harrison Ford, and Tim Robbins, were also associated with the role at various stages. Some declined the opportunity. Others became too expensive for the production's financial priorities. Eventually, the role went to New Zealand actor Sam Neill. Although Neill was already respected internationally, he was not viewed as one of Hollywood's highest-paid superstars. This made him an excellent fit for Spielberg's strategy. More importantly, Neill possessed exactly the qualities Spielberg wanted. He projected intelligence naturally. He could appear thoughtful without seeming dull. He carried authority without arrogance. Most importantly, audiences immediately believed he was a real paleontologist. Throughout the film, Neill portrays Grant as someone fascinated by prehistoric life but initially uncomfortable around children. His gradual relationship with Lex and Tim becomes one of the movie's emotional foundations. Because Neill plays the character with sincerity rather than exaggeration, Grant's transformation feels completely believable. Sam Neill's unexpected journey. Interestingly, Sam Neill had very little preparation before joining Jurassic Park. The entire process happened remarkably quickly. Within only a short period, he went from knowing almost nothing about the project to becoming its leading actor. He had not read Michael Crichton's best-selling novel. He knew very little about the story. Soon afterward, he found himself preparing to work with Steven Spielberg on one of the most ambitious productions in film history. The production schedule was even adjusted slightly so Neill could participate. Despite limited preparation time, Neill quickly embraced the role. His natural professionalism allowed him to create one of the most memorable adventure heroes in modern cinema. Unlike traditional action heroes, Alan Grant wins through intelligence, patience, observation, and compassion rather than physical strength alone, choosing Ellie Sattler. Casting Dr. Ellie Sattler proved equally important. Ellie needed to be intelligent, confident, emotionally compassionate, scientifically knowledgeable, and courageous enough to confront enormous dangers. Several actresses were considered. Robin Wright received an offer. Juliette Binoche was also approached. Both ultimately declined. Other talented actresses, including Embeth Davidtz, Gwyneth Paltrow, and Helen Hunt, auditioned for the role. Spielberg initially looked at several younger actresses. However, screenwriter Malia Scotch-Marmo expressed concern. She believed very youthful performers might not convincingly portray an accomplished scientist. Ellie required maturity. She needed to appear experienced enough to stand beside Alan Grant as an equal professional. Scotch-Marmo strongly recommended Laura Dern. Spielberg agreed. Dern possessed intelligence, warmth, confidence, and natural authority. Audiences immediately accepted her as a respected scientist. Rather than becoming merely the female lead in an adventure story, Ellie emerged as one of the film's strongest and most capable characters. Laura Dern's performance. Laura Dern brought remarkable energy to Ellie Sattler. She portrayed Ellie as fearless without becoming unrealistic. Whenever danger appeared, Ellie acted decisively. She questioned Hammond's decisions. She volunteered for dangerous missions. She challenged assumptions made by others. She solved problems independently. Throughout the story, Ellie repeatedly demonstrates that intelligence and courage matter more than physical strength. Her relationship with Alan Grant also feels genuine. Although Grant and Ellie clearly care about each other, their romance never overshadows the main story. Instead, they function primarily as trusted professional partners. Years later, Dern commented on the noticeable age difference between herself and Sam Neill. At the time of filming, however, neither performers nor audiences viewed the gap as particularly unusual. Their chemistry on screen remained believable because both actors focused on portraying mutual respect and affection rather than emphasizing romance. Finding Ian Malcolm. Perhaps no casting decision shaped Jurassic Park more dramatically than choosing Jeff Goldblum as Dr. Ian Malcolm. Casting director Janet Hershenson immediately believed Goldblum perfectly matched the character after reading Michael Crichton's novel. She admired his distinctive speaking style, unusual rhythm, intelligence, and natural charisma. Goldblum possessed a unique ability to make complicated scientific discussions entertaining. Another surprising audition came from Jim Carrey. Although Carrey delivered an energetic performance, Spielberg and the casting team quickly realized Goldblum offered something more suitable. Malcolm required humor, but not exaggerated comedy. He needed to remain intellectually credible while entertaining audiences. Several other respected actors were also considered. Tim Curry offered theatrical intensity. Albert Brooks possessed strong comic instincts. Judd Nelson, Kevin Pollak, Timothy Hutton, Charles Grodin, Fisher Stevens, and Barry Miller each represented different possibilities. Ultimately, none matched Goldblum's unusual combination of intelligence, charm, humor, and unpredictability. Jeff Goldblum redefines Malcolm. Jeff Goldblum did far more than simply perform existing dialogue. His personality influenced later screenplay revisions. Once Spielberg saw Goldblum's interpretation, David Koepp rewrote Malcolm accordingly. The character became funnier. His dialogue became more conversational. His philosophical observations gained wit and personality. Instead of speaking like a university professor delivering lectures, Malcolm now sounded like an intelligent thinker casually explaining dangerous truths. This transformation turned Malcolm into one of the franchise's defining characters. His memorable lines continue to be quoted decades after the film's release. Richard Attenborough as John Hammond. John Hammond required an actor capable of inspiring both admiration and sympathy. Hammond is neither hero nor villain. He genuinely wishes to create something extraordinary. However, his ambition blinds him to obvious dangers. Spielberg immediately envisioned Richard Attenborough. Attenborough had spent many years concentrating on directing rather than acting. He initially hesitated to accept the role. Returning to acting after such a long absence represented a significant decision. Spielberg personally encouraged him. He insisted he could imagine no one else portraying Hammond. Eventually, Attenborough agreed. The result became one of the film's emotional highlights. Rather than presenting Hammond as an evil businessman, Attenborough portrayed him as a kind grandfather whose optimism exceeds his judgment. Audiences sympathize with his dreams even while recognizing his mistakes. Other possibilities for Hammond. Another major name considered for John Hammond was Sean Connery. Connery possessed tremendous screen presence and international popularity. However, his salary exceeded what the production considered practical. Since Spielberg had already decided to prioritize visual effects over expensive stars, Connery ultimately did not receive the role. In retrospect, Attenborough's gentle performance became perfectly suited to Spielberg's vision. Preparing under pressure. Interestingly, the film's four principal adult actors, Sam Neill, Laura Dern, Jeff Goldblum, and Richard Attenborough, were all cast relatively late. They had only a few weeks to prepare before filming began. Normally actors spend months researching complicated professional roles. Here, preparation occurred within a much shorter period. Despite limited time, every performer arrived fully committed. Their professionalism helped create believable scientists despite demanding schedules. Casting Lex Murphy. Finding the right child actors proved equally challenging. Lex Murphy needed to appear intelligent, energetic, emotional, and capable of expressing genuine terror. Ariana Richards delivered one unforgettable audition. Rather than performing dialogue, she was asked simply to scream. Her scream sounded so realistic that it startled Steven Spielberg's wife, who reportedly believed something terrible had happened. This reaction convinced Spielberg. If the audition could frighten someone listening nearby, audiences would certainly believe Lex's fear during dinosaur attacks. Richards won the role. Christina Ricci also auditioned but was not selected. Ariana Richards' contribution. Richards brought more than convincing screams. She portrayed Lex as a believable young girl suddenly forced into terrifying survival situations. Initially frightened and overwhelmed, Lex gradually becomes increasingly resourceful. By the film's conclusion, her computer skills help restore the park's systems, making her an essential contributor to the group's survival. Rather than remaining helpless throughout the story, Lex grows stronger as events unfold. Joseph Mazzello as Tim Murphy. Joseph Mazzello's casting carried an interesting history. Spielberg had previously considered him for a role in Hook. Although talented, Mazzello appeared too young for that earlier project. Instead of forgetting him, Spielberg remembered his audition. Another memorable casting decision involved Samuel L. Jackson as Chief Engineer Ray Arnold. Casting director Janet Hershenson had admired Jackson's previous performances. Recommendations from respected colleagues further strengthened his candidacy. When Spielberg watched Jackson audition, he immediately recognized his natural authority. Even with relatively limited screen time, Jackson made Ray Arnold memorable. His calm professionalism contrasts sharply with the growing chaos consuming Jurassic Park. Although Arnold eventually disappears while attempting to restore power, Jackson's performance leaves a lasting impression. Wayne Knight as Dennis Nedry. The role of Dennis Nedry required someone capable of being humorous, irritating, selfish, and believable all at once. Spielberg found exactly what he wanted after seeing Wayne Knight perform in another film. Knight possessed remarkable comedic timing while also portraying greed convincingly. Nedry never becomes a traditional evil villain. Instead, he appears as an ordinary employee making increasingly selfish decisions. Knight's performance allows audiences to laugh at Nedry's incompetence while simultaneously recognizing the enormous consequences of his actions. His betrayal ultimately triggers the park's collapse. B.D. Wong as Dr. Henry Wu. B.D. Wong portrayed Dr. Henry Wu, Jurassic Park's chief geneticist. In Michael Crichton's novel, Wu plays a considerably larger role. The film greatly reduced his screen time. Wong later expressed disappointment because he believed the character offered far greater dramatic potential. Despite his limited appearance, Wu remains important. He represents the scientific brilliance responsible for cloning dinosaurs. His confidence reflects humanity's belief that advanced technology can completely control nature. Although his role is brief, later films would greatly expand the character's significance. Cameron Thor as Lewis Dodgson. Cameron Thor originally auditioned for Ian Malcolm. Although he did not receive that role, Spielberg cast him instead as Lewis Dodgson. Dodgson appears only briefly. Nevertheless, his meeting with Dennis Nedry establishes the corporate espionage subplot that triggers the entire disaster. His famous instruction to "see nobody cares" during their secret conversation became unexpectedly memorable despite limited screen time. Jerry Molen appears on screen. Producer Gerald Molen also made a small appearance as Dr. Harding, Jurassic Park's veterinarian. Although primarily responsible for production management behind the scenes, Molen briefly appeared in front of the camera. Such appearances by producers occasionally occur in Hollywood, especially when a minor speaking role needs to be filled by someone already familiar with the production. Richard Kiley's familiar voice. An interesting casting decision involved Richard Kiley. In Michael Crichton's novel, Kiley narrates the automated tour vehicles. Spielberg appreciated this connection between book and film. Rather than selecting an entirely new voice actor, he invited Kiley to perform the same role in the movie. This subtle decision created continuity between the novel and its adaptation. Another famous possibility considered for the narration was James Earl Jones. Known for his deep, commanding voice, Jones would later contribute to a documentary about the making of Jurassic Park instead. A carefully assembled ensemble. One remarkable quality of Jurassic Park's cast is how naturally everyone works together. No performer attempts to dominate every scene. Instead, each character contributes something essential. Alan Grant provides leadership and scientific expertise. Ellie Sattler contributes courage and compassion. Ian Malcolm offers philosophical insight and humor. John Hammond represents ambition and optimism. Robert Muldoon brings practical experience. Ray Arnold provides technical knowledge. Dennis Nedry becomes the catalyst for disaster. Lex and Tim represent innocence, curiosity, and emotional growth. Even characters with only a few minutes of screen time leave lasting impressions because every role was carefully cast. A casting strategy that shaped cinema. The casting of Jurassic Park ultimately became one of Steven Spielberg's smartest creative decisions. Rather than relying on expensive Hollywood superstars, he assembled a group of exceptionally talented performers who completely disappeared into their roles. Their believable performances grounded the film in reality, allowing audiences to accept extraordinary events without questioning them. The actors never competed with the dinosaurs for attention. Instead, they made the dinosaurs feel even more real by reacting with genuine wonder, fear, excitement, and determination. This carefully chosen ensemble gave Jurassic Park its emotional heart. While the revolutionary visual effects amazed audiences, it was the cast's sincerity, intelligence, humor, and chemistry that transformed the film from a technical achievement into a timeless cinematic classic. More than 3 decades later, these performances remain just as memorable as the dinosaurs themselves, proving that great casting is one of the foundations of truly unforgettable filmmaking. One of the most remarkable achievements of Jurassic Park, 1993, was its ability to convince audiences that they were visiting a real island where dinosaurs once again roamed freely. Although the dinosaurs themselves were created through groundbreaking visual effects and life-sized animatronics, the world surrounding them had to feel equally believable. Every mountain, jungle, waterfall, valley, river, and open field needed to create the illusion of a remote tropical paradise untouched by civilization. To accomplish this, Steven Spielberg and his production team carefully searched for filming locations that could bring the fictional island of Isla Nublar to life. Rather than relying entirely on studio sets or miniature models, Spielberg wanted real landscapes that looked both beautiful and mysterious. He wanted viewers to believe that somewhere in the Pacific Ocean there truly existed an island capable of hiding creatures that had been extinct for millions of years. The search for these locations became one of the most important parts of the film's production. It required months of planning, difficult logistical decisions, large-scale construction projects, and even surviving one of the strongest hurricanes to strike Hawaii. Every location chosen contributed to the film's realistic atmosphere and helped establish Jurassic Park as one of the most visually memorable adventure films ever made. In the story, Jurassic Park is located on Isla Nublar, a fictional tropical island situated near the coast of Costa Rica. Although the island itself does not exist, Spielberg wanted audiences to feel as though it could. The location needed dense rainforests. It required dramatic mountains. It needed waterfalls, rivers, valleys, cliffs, and enormous open spaces where dinosaurs could roam naturally. The landscape also needed to appear isolated from the rest of the world. Visitors arriving there should immediately feel that they had entered a completely different environment. Finding a place capable of delivering all these qualities became one of the production's earliest priorities. Considering Costa Rica. Since Isla Nublar was described as being located near Costa Rica, the filmmakers naturally considered filming there. Using the real country would have increased geographical authenticity. Costa Rica already possessed lush rainforests, tropical wildlife, and spectacular scenery similar to the fictional island described in Michael Crichton's novel. However, practical challenges quickly emerged. The planned filming schedule coincided with Costa Rica's rainy season. Heavy rainfall would create enormous production difficulties. Outdoor filming depends heavily upon stable weather. Constant rain can damage equipment. Roads become difficult to use. Helicopter transportation becomes unreliable. Lighting conditions change dramatically. Schedules become unpredictable. Since Jurassic Park required hundreds of crew members, expensive visual effects equipment, and complicated mechanical dinosaurs, weather delays could have cost millions of dollars. After evaluating these risks, the filmmakers decided not to shoot in Costa Rica. Puerto Rico as another possibility. The production team also seriously considered Puerto Rico. Like Costa Rica, Puerto Rico offered tropical landscapes suitable for Isla Nublar. Its forests, mountains, and climate matched many of the visual requirements established by Spielberg. For a time, Puerto Rico appeared to be one of the strongest candidates. Eventually, however, Spielberg found an even better alternative. That location was Hawaii. Why Spielberg chose Hawaii? Steven Spielberg later explained that several factors influenced his decision. Earlier in his career, he might have selected a more remote location. Younger Spielberg enjoyed traveling into extremely rugged environments. However, by the early 1990s he approached filmmaking differently. He recognized that comfort, infrastructure, transportation, and accessibility could significantly improve production efficiency. Hawaii offered all of these advantages. Unlike isolated tropical regions, Hawaii possessed modern hotels. Comfortable accommodations existed for hundreds of cast and crew members. Equipment could be transported more easily. Medical services remained readily available. Communication systems functioned reliably. Transportation between filming sites became much simpler. Spielberg also appreciated that Hawaii combined extraordinary natural beauty with modern conveniences. The production team could spend each day filming inside dense jungles while returning every evening to comfortable hotels. This balance reduced stress throughout the lengthy production schedule. Familiar territory. Another reason Spielberg preferred Hawaii involved familiarity. He had filmed there previously. Because of this experience, he already understood the island's geography, weather patterns, transportation systems, and available production resources. Working in familiar surroundings reduces uncertainty. Directors already know which local companies can provide equipment. They understand travel times. They know where permits must be obtained. They recognize which areas offer the most dramatic scenery. This previous experience made Hawaii a practical as well as artistic choice. Natural beauty equal to any other location. Although Hawaii offered practical advantages, Spielberg never viewed it merely as the easiest option. He genuinely believed its landscapes rivaled or even surpassed every other location under consideration. Towering volcanic mountains. Dense tropical forests. Massive waterfalls. Deep valleys. Ancient cliffs. Wide grassy plains. The islands contain nearly every landscape required for Jurassic Park. Audiences around the world would immediately accept Hawaii as the mysterious Isla Nublar. Even today many viewers assume Jurassic Park was filmed somewhere deep within Central America rather than on Hawaiian islands. This demonstrates how successfully the location supported Spielberg's vision. Beginning construction. Once Hawaii became the final choice, work began months before filming. Large construction crews arrived during early summer. Their responsibility involved transforming untouched natural landscapes into believable sections of Jurassic Park. Unlike ordinary productions using existing buildings, Jurassic Park required entirely new structures. Visitor centers, park gates, animal enclosures, maintenance buildings, electrified fences, road systems. Numerous sets needed construction before actors ever arrived. Some filming locations proved especially challenging because they could only be reached using specialized off-road vehicles. Heavy equipment had to travel through jungles, muddy trails, and remote valleys. Every piece of construction material required careful transportation planning. Filming begins. After approximately 2 years of pre-production, principal photography finally began during late August 1992. The first stage focused primarily upon Hawaii. Most daytime exterior scenes occurring on Isla Nublar were filmed there. The production lasted several weeks before eventually moving to California for studio work. Beginning with real outdoor environments helped actors immerse themselves in the story. Instead of imagining prehistoric landscapes inside sound stages, they worked directly within enormous tropical valleys surrounded by cliffs, forests, rivers, and waterfalls. This realism naturally influenced performances. Young actors continue school. Because Ariana Richards and Joseph Mazzello were still children, education remained a priority throughout filming. Teachers accompanied the production. Between scenes, both actors attended classes rather than treating filming as a vacation. Spielberg strongly supported this arrangement. Education continued alongside filmmaking. Joseph Mazzello expressed particular interest in directing. Recognizing this enthusiasm, Spielberg occasionally invited him away from formal lessons to observe filmmaking itself. Rather than merely acting, Mazzello watched Spielberg direct scenes, organize crews, position cameras, and solve production problems. These experiences became valuable practical education unavailable inside ordinary classrooms. Spielberg enjoyed mentoring young performers interested in filmmaking. Challenges of tropical weather. Although Hawaii provided spectacular scenery, filming there introduced another challenge. The weather changed constantly. Clouds appeared unexpectedly. Bright sunshine could disappear within minutes. Scenes filmed on different days needed to appear continuous. If one shot looked bright while the next appeared cloudy, audiences might notice distracting inconsistencies. The cinematography team therefore developed creative solutions. Artificial lighting balanced natural sunlight. Camera exposure adjustments helped maintain visual consistency. Careful planning ensured scenes filmed hours or days apart appeared as though they occurred simultaneously. These technical achievements remain largely invisible because they succeeded so effectively. Most audiences never realize how dramatically weather changed throughout production. Manawaiapuna Falls becomes Jurassic Falls. One of the film's most iconic locations features helicopters arriving at Isla Nublar. Passengers first witnessed Jurassic Park while flying toward a spectacular waterfall. These scenes were filmed at Manawaiapuna Falls on Kauai. Following the film's enormous success, the waterfall became internationally famous. Many visitors began referring to it simply as Jurassic Falls. The helicopter approach perfectly establishes the wonder awaiting visitors. Before audiences see any dinosaurs, they experience breathtaking natural beauty. The enormous waterfall symbolizes entering an untouched paradise hidden from ordinary civilization. It remains one of the franchise's most recognizable locations. Jurassic Rock. Another memorable landscape appears during the helicopter's journey. A dramatic rocky island rises from the ocean as the aircraft approaches Isla Nublar. This formation became widely known as Jurassic Rock. Although located near Maui, it perfectly complemented footage filmed elsewhere in Hawaii. Combined with aerial cinematography, these natural landmarks convinced audiences they were approaching a mysterious island isolated from the modern world. Building the Visitor Center. Perhaps the largest construction project involved the Jurassic Park Visitor Center. Rather than finding an existing building, the production designed and built a massive exterior facade. Standing approximately 60 feet tall and nearly 200 feet long, it dominated the surrounding landscape. Only exterior portions required construction because interior scenes would later be filmed elsewhere. Nevertheless, the enormous facade created convincing scale. Actors walking toward the entrance appeared tiny compared with the impressive building. This visual design emphasized Hammond's ambition. He had not simply created a zoo. He had built an enormous entertainment destination intended to astonish visitors. Constructing the famous Jurassic Park gate. Few movie props have become as recognizable as the Jurassic Park entrance gate. The enormous wooden doors marked the beginning of the dinosaur safari. Constructing this landmark required careful craftsmanship. Rather than appearing modern, the gate needed to suggest timeless grandeur. Its enormous size immediately communicated the scale of Hammond's vision. Today the gate remains one of the franchise's defining symbols. Countless theme parks, exhibitions, merchandise, and later films continue referencing its design. Filming the amber mine. Early in the story, audiences briefly visit an amber mine where prehistoric mosquitoes preserved inside fossilized tree resin become central to dinosaur cloning. Although set in the Dominican Republic, these scenes were actually filmed near another Hawaiian waterfall. Careful location selection allowed one region of Hawaii to represent multiple countries. Through clever cinematography and production design, viewers never suspect they remain on the same island. Costa Rica without leaving Hawaii. Another clever transformation involved the meeting between Dennis Nedry and Louis Dodgson. Within the story, they secretly meet in San Jose, Costa Rica. In reality, this sequence was filmed in the Hawaiian town of Kapaa. Through selective camera angles, architecture, and careful staging, the filmmakers convincingly transformed Hawaii into Central America. Such versatility greatly reduced travel expenses while maintaining visual authenticity. Creating the raptor enclosure. The terrifying velociraptor enclosure required another specially constructed set. Located inside a botanical garden, this environment had to appear heavily fortified. Strong fencing. Industrial gates. Observation platforms. Dense surrounding vegetation. Every design element suggested dangerous animals lived nearby. The enclosure immediately establishes that velociraptors represent the park's greatest threat long before audiences fully encounter them. The dinosaur nest. Another botanical garden became the location where Alan Grant discovers broken dinosaur eggs. This scene proves dinosaurs have begun breeding despite every precaution. Visually, the setting appears ancient and untouched. Dense vegetation surrounds the hidden nest. The quiet atmosphere contrasts sharply with the shocking realization that nature has already escaped human control. The beautiful environment reinforces one of the film's central themes. Life always finds a way. Building the massive electric fences. Among the production's greatest engineering challenges involved constructing the enormous electric fences surrounding dinosaur paddocks. Although they appear relatively simple on screen, building them proved extremely difficult. Some sections stood approximately 24 feet tall. Others stretched hundreds of feet across isolated valleys. Construction crews transported steel supports into remote canyon locations accessible only through difficult terrain. They drilled deep holes. Concrete foundations secured each post. Heavy cables stretched enormous distances between supports. Altogether, more than 6 miles of specialized cable were installed. Workers experienced with electrical power lines assisted the production because ordinary construction methods proved insufficient. The completed fences appear only briefly throughout the film. Most audiences never realize the enormous effort required simply to build what seems like ordinary fencing. Realism through practical construction. Spielberg insisted upon constructing actual fences instead of relying entirely upon visual effects. Real structures allowed actors to physically interact with their surroundings. Lighting behaved naturally. Camera movement appeared authentic. Most importantly, audiences subconsciously recognized the realism. Although computer-generated imagery later enhanced certain scenes, beginning with genuine physical environments greatly strengthened the illusion. Climbing the fence. One memorable sequence shows Alan Grant and the children climbing over an electrified fence. Because real fence sections existed, actors could safely interact with practical structures rather than imaginary objects. The authenticity of these physical sets increased the scene's tension. Viewers believe the danger because the environment feels tangible. Hurricane Iniki strikes. Just as the Hawaiian filming schedule approached completion, disaster nearly interrupted the entire production. On what was expected to be the final scheduled day of filming, Hurricane Iniki moved directly toward Kauai. The cast and crew received warning only shortly before its arrival. Everyone immediately sought shelter inside their hotel. Powerful winds battered buildings. Heavy rain flooded surrounding areas. Trees collapsed. Infrastructure suffered widespread damage. The production suddenly faced one of its greatest real-life challenges. Spielberg films the storm. Remarkably, Steven Spielberg recognized an unexpected opportunity. Instead of remaining entirely indoors, he ventured outside with a small camera crew during portions of the hurricane. Naturally, safety remained the highest priority, but Spielberg managed to capture genuine footage of violent winds and tropical weather. These real images later appeared in the film during the approaching storm on Isla Nublar. Rather than creating every weather effect artificially, audiences witnessed actual hurricane conditions. This decision increased the realism of the storm sequence. Relocating the Gallimimus scene. Before Hurricane Iniki arrived, another important sequence had been scheduled for Kauai. This involved Alan Grant and the children witnessing an enormous herd of Gallimimus dinosaurs running across open grasslands. Unfortunately, hurricane damage made filming impossible. Rather than abandoning the sequence, the production relocated it to another Hawaiian island. The new location was Kualoa Ranch on Oahu. Unexpectedly, this change improved the scene. The ranch featured dramatic green valleys surrounded by towering cliffs. The spectacular landscape became one of the movie's most memorable visual environments. Sometimes production difficulties unexpectedly produce better creative results. Changes to Ray Arnold's death. The hurricane also affected another part of the screenplay. Originally, Ray Arnold was supposed to appear on screen while being chased and killed by a velociraptor. However, production delays caused by the storm prevented filming this sequence. Instead, Spielberg altered the story. Audiences later discover only Arnold's severed arm. His actual death occurs off-screen. Interestingly, this change arguably increases suspense. Viewers imagine what happened rather than witnessing it directly. Sometimes less visual information creates greater horror. Completing the Hawaiian shoot. Despite surviving one of Hawaii's most destructive hurricanes, the production achieved something remarkable. The Hawaiian schedule finished almost exactly on time. Expenses also remained close to the planned budget. Considering the enormous logistical challenges involved, remote locations, difficult construction, changing weather, complex equipment, child actors' education, and a devastating hurricane, this accomplishment reflected extraordinary organization and leadership. Every department adapted quickly to unexpected problems. Rather than allowing setbacks to derail the project, the crew solved each challenge through flexibility, teamwork, and creative problem-solving, bringing Isla Nublar to life. The Hawaiian filming of Jurassic Park became far more than simply choosing beautiful locations. Steven Spielberg and his production team transformed real islands into one of cinema's most iconic fictional worlds through careful planning, practical construction, innovative cinematography, and remarkable perseverance. Every waterfall, mountain, jungle, canyon, and valley contributed to the illusion that Isla Nublar truly existed somewhere beyond the reach of modern civilization. The production also demonstrated that filmmaking is often an adventure in itself. Cast and crew battled unpredictable weather, worked in remote environments, transported enormous construction materials through difficult terrain, and even endured a powerful hurricane without abandoning their creative vision. Their dedication allowed audiences to experience a world that felt breathtakingly authentic. More than 3 decades later, many of the Hawaiian locations remain popular tourist destinations because viewers still wish to stand where Alan Grant first saw the Brachiosaurus, where the park gates opened, where helicopters landed beside Jurassic Falls, and where dinosaurs seemed to roam freely. These unforgettable landscapes became as important to Jurassic Park as the dinosaurs themselves, proving that the world surrounding a story can be just as memorable as the characters and creatures that inhabit it. One of the greatest reasons Jurassic Park, 1993, became one of the most influential films in cinema history was the extraordinary way it brought dinosaurs to life. Before its release, audiences had seen dinosaurs in documentaries, stop-motion films, and animated productions, but they had never experienced prehistoric animals that looked, moved, sounded, and behaved with such astonishing realism. Steven Spielberg did not simply want giant monsters chasing people. His vision was far more ambitious. He wanted viewers to believe that dinosaurs were living animals that had returned to Earth after millions of years of extinction. This creative philosophy shaped every decision made during production. From scientific research and dinosaur behavior to animatronic engineering and groundbreaking computer-generated imagery, every department worked together toward a single goal, convincing audiences that the impossible had become real. Instead of creating terrifying movie monsters, the filmmakers attempted to recreate actual prehistoric animals as faithfully as possible while still delivering an exciting adventure story. The result transformed not only Jurassic Park but the entire film industry. The techniques pioneered during its production changed how visual effects were created, proving that computer-generated imagery could successfully blend with live-action filmmaking on an unprecedented level. More than 30 years later, the dinosaurs of Jurassic Park remain among the most convincing creatures ever placed on screen. Spielberg wanted animals, not monsters. From the beginning, Steven Spielberg established an important creative rule for everyone working on the film. He did not want dinosaurs treated like traditional movie monsters. Many previous creature films focused on making giant animals appear evil, bloodthirsty, or supernatural. Such films often exaggerated their behavior, turning them into villains whose only purpose was to destroy cities or hunt human beings. Spielberg rejected this approach completely. Instead, he wanted audiences to understand that dinosaurs were simply animals behaving according to instinct. A lion hunts because it is hungry. A snake bites because it feels threatened. A bear attacks when protecting its territory. Likewise, the dinosaurs in Jurassic Park would not kill out of cruelty or revenge. They would simply behave naturally. Production designer Rick Carter explained that the team constantly tried to find the animal in the dinosaur. This philosophy influenced every scene. The Tyrannosaurus Rex does not escape because it wants revenge. It escapes because the electric fence fails. The velociraptors hunt intelligently because they are predators. The Triceratops becomes sick because it has unknowingly eaten poisonous plants. Each dinosaur possesses believable motivations rooted in animal behavior rather than fictional monster instincts. Eliminating the word monster. Spielberg reinforced this philosophy with an unusual rule during production. He banned certain words from the set. Crew members were not allowed to refer to dinosaurs as monsters or creatures. Instead, everyone had to call them animals. Although this might appear like a small detail, language influences thinking. When artists, designers, actors, and technicians consistently referred to dinosaurs as animals, they naturally approached them differently. Actors reacted with curiosity as well as fear. Visual effects artists studied animal movement instead of horror films. Animatronic builders concentrated on muscles, breathing, and posture rather than exaggerated monster features. This simple vocabulary rule helped maintain realism throughout production. Scientific accuracy becomes a priority. Spielberg also wanted the dinosaurs to reflect current scientific knowledge. To accomplish this, he hired one of the world's leading paleontologists, Dr. Jack Horner. Rather than serving merely as a consultant, Horner actively participated throughout production. He reviewed dinosaur designs. He examined behavior. He corrected anatomical mistakes. He discussed movement patterns. Whenever scientific evidence existed, Spielberg encouraged the production to follow it. This decision distinguished Jurassic Park from earlier dinosaur films, many of which ignored paleontological discoveries in favor of fantasy. Jack Horner's influence. Jack Horner had spent years studying dinosaur fossils. His research challenged many long-held assumptions. For decades, popular culture portrayed dinosaurs as slow, clumsy reptiles. Horner believed this image was outdated. According to modern evidence available at the time, many dinosaurs were active, intelligent animals more closely related to birds than modern reptiles. Although this theory was still controversial during the early 1990s, Spielberg embraced it. Rather than presenting dinosaurs as giant lizards, the film portrayed them as energetic, alert, and highly responsive. This approach dramatically changed public perception of prehistoric life. Dinosaurs related to birds. One important scientific concept emphasized during production involved the evolutionary relationship between dinosaurs and birds. Today this idea is widely accepted. However, during the early 1990s many people still imagined dinosaurs as oversized reptiles. Horner encouraged Spielberg to present them differently. Birds possess warm blood. They move rapidly. They demonstrate remarkable intelligence. Many dinosaurs likely shared these characteristics. This influenced countless creative decisions throughout the film. The velociraptors became quick, agile hunters. Their body language resembles predatory birds more than crocodiles. Their alert posture, coordinated teamwork, and rapid movements reflected modern scientific thinking. Removing the raptor tongues. One interesting example involved the velociraptors' tongues. Early animation tests showed the dinosaurs repeatedly flicking their tongues like snakes. Jack Horner immediately objected. Snakes flick their tongues because they rely heavily on chemical sensing. There was no convincing evidence suggesting velociraptors behaved similarly. Instead of accepting inaccurate behavior simply because it looked dramatic, Spielberg listened carefully.